Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Hotline League. It is on a Tuesday this week because we celebrated Memorial Day, and quite frankly, I'm very happy that we decided. Kelby and I were talking about it. We were trying to figure out if we want to take the holiday off, and we just decided to. And good news, we did, because boy, is there a lot to talk about based off of one singular skin. So much so that we had to pull in an additional guest for this week's episode last minute, so that he and I could argue. We'll get into that in a second. But first, my co-host for this episode is none other than Kelby. Kelby, how's it going?
Great. In order to afford said skin, I'd like to invite our guest for the episode, Raz, if he'd like to join what we are calling our FAKER OnlyFans in the caster's house.
Gotcha.
We're really thinking about it.
This
We're calling
is
it FAKER. We're just raising money for the skin.
Gotcha.
They're going to be really disappointed when they don't.
It's going to start with feet pics. I golfed the last couple days. The tan line is really hitting right now. I feel like there's an audience for that.
There's literally, I'm looking in the chat right now, there's literally an OnlyFans photographer I'm aware of who's in the chat ready to go for you guys. So Kelby asked if this was how the show has been off to a very before, with the conversation before the start of the show, and then now the pre-show and then now we're very unhinged. Which makes sense because this might be one of the last episodes we have that's unsponsored, at least for the time being. So we have to take advantage of
leak it, Travis,
being unbrand safe as we can. I can't leak anything until it's signed. But
and Travis, I can't believe you're working towards sponsors. Wow, there are YouTube comments that are against that.
Oh yeah, I know. Okay, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, our guest this week, our first one, is none other than Raz. Raz, welcome back. Hopefully, no audio issues.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, you've already traumatized me by immediately saying that my mic was trash, Travis. So
I did not say that. I said it doesn't sound as good as normal. And then Captain Flowers in the chat earlier said, quote, your mic sounds like shit, Raz. It's perfect for the League of Legends comms experience. So
he has to be trolling.
There's so many. We've got Emily. We've got Captain Flowers. We've got a bunch of. I've seen a bunch of League of Legends personalities in the chat today. So I
message to Emily. Emily said that, was talking about whether she was going to join because she has a FAKER skin take. So just now we're going to add pressure towards her. Now This is public pressure, peer pressure for her to join. So
boom. All right. Well, I'm excited. We're going to have you defending the. I tweeted earlier that Raz was going to defend it as punishment for having audio issues last time. And boy, did that piss off some people. There were replies that were wishing that he would get fired. They were calling for him to get fired.
So funny. Because I was the one hater the last time that I was on. I hated the Hall of Legends to begin with, while Travis was violently defending it.
Yeah.
Valiantly. So I am interested in what this episode is going to do.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. Okay, and finally returning for the first time in a long time is none other than Kelby. Kelby, how's it going?
It's going great. Yeah, I've been busy this week. Lud has an all white male speedrunning event that's happening.
Oh God!
If you haven't heard the drama, that's
Jesus
happening this
Christ.
weekend. And yeah, I'm getting all the sponsors on board with their diversity investments in the gaming space.
Nice. So. Okay. So for those that are unaware of what you currently do you want to explain?
Yeah. I work for Off Brand, which is most easily associated with like the production company that does all of Ludwig's events. So I do all of our event sponsorships and I do all his personal sponsorships. And I rep a couple esports players on the side for fun. Busio, who plays for FlyQuest, my boy Peter, no longer playing, and Koi, who's a professional Apex Legends player.
Gotcha. And that's Peter.
The games that I really care about: League of Legends and Apex Legends.
That's Peter, the former Team Liquid and TSM coach that you rep.
Yeah. My boy Peter.
Damn.
We go back.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Double lift. Yeah.
For those that do not know, Kelby was a very, very frequent guest on the first, I'd say 100 or 150 episodes of Hotline League. And so he pops up every now and then. And now when he pops up, the people who didn't watch the show years ago get confused and say, who's this guy? What does he have to do with the space? Blah, blah, blah. But right now, he actually does rep some talent, which is relevant to conversations we'll be having on this episode about the Dignitas drama. Because I think when I woke up this morning, I thought, wow, we're gonna have to stretch a whole episode about all this Dignitas drama and the roster changes and how are Kelby and I gonna do this. We're gonna have to make Raz get angry again like he did last episode. Somehow it was gonna be this whole thing, and then boy did Riot deliver on everything. So
this is perfect. When I woke up in the morning, I was like, God, Jesus Christ. I was like, I'm gonna close social media immediately. That being said, Travis, how many episodes have you actually done of this show? Do you keep track?
Yeah, I think we're on like 320 or 325 or something like that, somewhere in the 320s, I believe. Numi, I think, can probably say something if she's in the chat, but she keeps track. But yeah, so yeah, it's been many episodes. It's been it's like 6.5 years now, I think, of Hotline League, which is pretty crazy. So yeah. Anyway, so here's the news, everybody. So one, I think we're going to be talking about a bunch of different stuff on this episode, but there are two main topics, one of which is the Dignitas stuff. So last week, right after we did Hotline League, Dignitas officially announced that they were going to be bringing in a couple players, or actually no, it didn't officially announce. It was reported by Sheep Esports that XU would be out, Spica would be in. XU tweeted at the time that he had been told 2 weeks prior that he had the spot. There was a lot of outrage at Dignitas because they felt like a player got screwed, and some conversation about whether or not Spica was upgraded or not. Then Sheep Esports reported that Jensen would be joining. I think Dignitas to date has only officially announced Sven in terms of their changes, but I guess I should go check their Twitter. Anyway,
it was Sven,
yeah. So that's been a lot of the drama. I did an interview with it's just Sven. I did an interview with XU, whereas I was loading it and I was double confirming. Okay, I saw that expression. I did an interview with XU, which is up on the YouTube channel right now. If folks want to go watch it, it's about sort of the circumstances around his departure, but also the plight of being, North American talent that is not veteran and not a rock star and all that stuff. And so we talked a lot about this stuff. I think it's a really good interview. He was very candid, and because I recorded it on my own, it was out of focus, so it's mostly just audio. But I would go recommend that. But we'll probably be referencing that some. And then the second thing, wait, Covey, do you want to give the spiel on the Faker? I've been talking for a while. What happened with the Faker skin, Covey?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know the full thing. All I know is that if you want the premium package, it costs $500, which is really all you need to know, because that's all the community cares about.
So I think it's 450, right?
I thought it was like 600 because I looked at the RP costs. I don't know.
Well, I think it depends on how you're buying the skin, right?
30% goes back to Faker. So Riot really wants Faker to own 2 skyscrapers in Korea, which is pretty cool.
But I mean, Cubby, sorry, I have to keep correcting you.
Yeah,
30% goes to Faker and the teams, so it's not all to Faker.
What do you mean by the teams?
The teams.
Glad you asked.
The
Travis.
The website actually only says the teams. I'm pretty sure, or it says
is it T1?
Some teams.
He's only played for T1.
No. So the teams being
the teams that he shat on throughout his career.
No,
what's going on?
League of Legends teams. So LoL Esports teams.
Sweet.
So this is okay. This is where folks. I'm glad you are confused about this, because it gives me an excuse to dive into this. So, they were just kind of like, oh yeah, they're going to some teams, and a lot of people I think were confused by this because they didn't explain it. But it actually goes back to that article in March where John Needham came out and was like, "Oopsie whoopsie, we made a fucky wucky last year, and we are actually." Changing our esports. What we said the future of esports was, it's now going to be different. It's titled "Adjusting Our LOL Esports Strategy," and in it, they talk about, or John talks about, how they are going to be creating essentially this like pool of money that will go to LCK, LCS, and LEC teams. And from revenue from LoL Esports digital content sales. And they have this big breakdown on how it works. Some of that money goes into general shares allocated to tier 1 teams. Some goes into a bucket that gets allocated based off of regional league standings and international event placements. And then the remaining 15% goes into fandom shares, which I guess they do something where they calculate like how good teams are doing at making folks care about them. So we don't know how much actually goes back to FAKER, but some of it goes to FAKER and some of it goes into this bucket of money that gets distributed out to the different teams. So that's how that works.
Okay.
In addition to the $450 to $600 skin that we don't know the exact numbers on, they are okay here. PC Games End says, according to the MOBA's official website, the base Ahri package starts at 5,430 RP, which is $55.98 or 39 euros and 98 euro cents. What are, I don't know, do they just call them cents?
I have no idea.
So that's like the premium package. But in addition, it's worth noting, like everybody is hyper focusing on that, which I understand why. It's eye bulging. But they are also doing a pass that costs considerably less. It's 1950 RP, which I think is like $17 or something in the States. And then they have a like basic level version of the Ahri skin called Risen that gets you that pass and some additional cosmetics, and then it gets you this Risen Legend Ahri skin, which again is like the baseline version. If you go up to 32,430 RP, which I think is something like $250 or something along those lines, you get a bunch of additional upgrades to the skin and some additional upgrades to cosmetics, like a profile background and all this stuff.
Is there an article on this somewhere?
What's that?
Yeah, I can link it.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah. I'll link it in the chat. It's halloflegends.leagueoflegends.com if anybody wants to go check it out. But I'll put it in the...
How did I read about this more than you guys? Come on.
Hey, I've read about it a ton.
Not you, Travis. Sorry.
I know. I'm just trying to throw them under the bus as much as possible.
Thank you very much.
I try to avoid the entire thing.
The signature one is the $450, $500 one, which is 59,260 RP, and it comes with FAKER signature move, which you can activate through Control 5. He's got like a special finisher. There's a signature that pops up. There's all these different things that pop up as well. You get a special LeBlanc skin and all these different things. So
it's a steal.
There's yes, in one direction maybe. But there's a lot that goes into this. So we're going to be talking about it, and we're going to be arguing about it, because I think if people had just come into this episode and what they had heard was all of us being like, yeah, this sucks, it would be kind of a boring episode. So one of us, and I won't name who yet, is going to be taking the other side of the issue.
Is that you,
We
Travis?
already know who the riot shill is here, Travis. You're not spoiling it for anybody.
Cubby
Travis,
will be defending this with his last breath. Yeah.
I'm earning my invoice this month, Travis.
He's going to start with, if you're broke, just say so.
It's if you're a broke boy, Kelby. Please get
Yeah, sorry.
If you're a broke boy, just say so, says Naz Ali Taha at Riot Games.
If you're a broke boy, just say so, you know? Yeah, you gotta do the finger wag and everything anyway.
Okay. So.
Sim for FAKER.
That's where we're at. So we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about the Ahri skin. We'll talk about the Dignitas skin. Is there anything else that has happened that has been crowded out by all this drama this past week? I'm sure we'll get zero calls about this, but just to point out, the Players Association has announced an official way to get agents accredited or whatever. That's like that you can, I don't know what is the term that they're using specifically, like an official
certified or whatever.
Certified.
Are you in there, Kelby?
You have to take a college degree. Like
Kelby, will you be getting agent certified?
Are you taking the LSAT for being an agent, Kelby?
Phil and I are in conversation about the pros and cons of becoming LCSPA certified. So I will take that into consideration and then make my decision moving forward.
Really? Because that's the main reason I had you on the show. I figured that you'd be able to talk about the whether or not you were going to become certified, why you wouldn't.
I would.
Say it.
I have made a decision based off of my private conversation with Phil, which I will not share with the group at large because it may not represent why other people would or would not choose to be certified, and I don't want to. Can we move on?
What we can glean from this, and Kelby has not told me this beforehand, even though I teased him about it. What we can glean from this is Kelby is definitely not getting certified. Because if he was, he would just be like, "Yeah, I'm doing it. It's gonna be easy." Instead, he does this whole dance around thing.
Yeah. I'm a licensed agent in the state of California, so LCSPA certification is not something I'm overly concerned about. From what I will say, I'll just say it. I'm being coy for no reason, really. I think that the main reason is that if you're somebody who is looking to get, like, if you don't have a network of talent that already exists and you want to find players to represent and stuff, this is a way so that players who are coming in and don't have an agent and are looking for one can go into the LCSPA database and be like, oh, these people are accredited, they're certified, they're legit to work with, instead of trying to go out and find somebody and then maybe getting somebody who's not good to look at your player contract and doing your negotiations, stuff like that. I'm not interested in getting additional players. I only want to work with Busio. He's the only, and Peter and Koi. This is like a side thing for me, so I don't need to be a part of that because I'm not trying to sign any additional talent.
So just remember, everybody, that if any drama goes down with Busio, he has an uncertified agent.
True.
Yeah, that's fair. Alan can cut me at any point that he so chooses.
His agent is uncertified.
I was a little concerned when you started talking about esports certificates and agent certificates, just because of the last time this was discussed, and it was the most disgusting thing we saw in the network.
You don't want to be esports certified?
That was fun.
Honestly, let's do it. I need a college degree, basically to bankrupt myself, just for an esports certification.
I made so much money off that esports certification thing. But this is a flashback, everybody. Like three or so years ago.
We should just clip that and post it on social media.
No, I did.
Without any context.
Kelby, you don't remember how this worked?
Yeah, I do for sure. But I just without that context that you're about to provide, it would sound silly to people.
I remember this.
So good.
Yeah, that's fair. It was good. Basically, a group started up and they said they were gonna charge you, I don't know, a couple $100 or something. I forget how much, some ridiculous amount to get esports certified, which was just a vague. You get an esports certification the same way you could get a C++ certification, and I just went live on stream and said if anybody subbed to me, I would give them a certification, and a bunch of people did. Hundreds of people did. I just made them live on the stream, and then uploaded them as JPEGs for people, and it was great.
Sounds like fraud to me.
Yeah,
gonna put that out there.
I mean, it was about as effective, I feel like, as the esports certification program was.
That's also
anyway. So yeah, well, we have that, but I think that's.
Are there callers on this show?
Yes.
Sometimes.
Did you guys cut out the callers? They were the worst part, to be honest. So I get it. I'm just kidding. That was a joke.
You can keep the joke for the first caller.
Oh. This is.
We're gonna go with Emily first. Is that your way of saying we're gonna go with Emily first?
Potentially.
I like that the answer to Kelby's question, are there callers, is going to be just us pulling another League of Legends esports personality onto the show.
This is really guest. Just mirroring Riot. Actually, never mind. This punchline doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. All right, let's. So it's time to grab callers. Cubby, do you want to explain how the show works?
Yeah, if you guys want to call in, you can go to the Discord, discord.gg/Travis, or the command Discord, !Discord, if you want to get on in. Say yes to the rules. You don't even have to read them. And then drop your take. You can add me, @Cubby. I'll see your take. If it's good, I'll drop you in a waiting room, and I'll go on up there, and we pull callers one by one. So yeah, we talked about the topics being XU, Players Association, and then the new way to get esports certified, which is buying the full FAKER package bundle.
Yes. Yeah, it comes with free certification.
Yeah. You watch esports, you get the Faker bundle.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, that's how the show's going. If you want to come on, also by the way, if you are a sub over on Twitch, you get access to the subtopics channel, which moves a little slower, and we try to pull from there as well. Doesn't guarantee you or anything. And then same thing if you're a YouTube member, all 5 of you, you can become to get access to the subtopics channel as well. So thanks to everybody who decides to do that. And thank you everybody who does sub, because that stuff is really supportive. We haven't had a sponsor on the show for several months now, so it's very much appreciated. All right. Kelby, you want to go grab our first caller?
Yeah.
All right. Off he goes. Oh, I just realized I need to turn on I'm in week 3 of not being able to use the regular app of Discord. I have to reformat my computer, and so what you're hearing in those Discord noises are because of the fact that I'm on the web browser version, which is annoying. So I think I can fix that though. But I just have to fix it every time I open the app. Anyway, our first caller is here. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Emily, and I'm calling from Culver City, California.
Fantastic. Well, what would you like to talk about on the show?
I was about to say.
New mistake. Emily, come on.
Actually, I mean, I just found out that I didn't have to read the rules from Cubby in the introduction, so
Nice.
I'm just following instructions.
Yep.
What do you want to talk about on the show?
So I have like not even a rant, but like a breakdown of why I wouldn't mind the Faker skin if skin pricing thing if it wasn't for like myriad other factors, mainly it being tied to Hall of Legends.
Sure.
If we're gonna have like any sort of League of Legends like Hall of Fame thing. And so like in a vacuum, I don't mind it, and I can see why people are like because there are a lot of people after the initial backlash, there are a lot of people being like, well, this isn't for you, it's for whales. And like, I know someone who spent tens of thousands of dollars on Genshin Impact. So do you, Travis. It's not you, actually.
Yeah, it's not me.
I was going to say, wow,
if people think I'm calling out Travis.
I'm pretty sure I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, your friend and mine. But like, so I think like that is, in a way, if you're looking at, okay, we want to monetize the game, this is what we're going to do, put out something that is at like multiple price points. So you have something for the whales, you have something for like at every single tier, right? I think that tying in esports to that is great. I think they should have been doing it way sooner. I think in terms of the way that esports is treated, oddly, here's where I lose my job, by the way. Esports is treated so weirdly as like this thing that needs to be independently profitable suddenly, but also isn't recognized for the marketing arm it can be for the entire game. Most people I know, even who are still paying attention to the game, are like doing so because of esports. The bigger example, I think, or the more interesting example, was how people ended up picking up Azir after Faker played it and had that insane shuffle in the JDG game at Worlds last year. But like, I think tying in something like this at multiple price points is actually like, okay, cool. We probably should have been doing this with esports players forever ago. But then the issue comes back to how much of that profit is actually going to teams, and like I'm already not saying this well. This is so frustrating. It sounds so much better in my brain. Good. But like, it's like basically that if you're like a team and you're an esports team, the nebulous amount of publicity that you give the League of Legends game is like really difficult to quantify, right? And like put into something. And I feel like that should be recognized monetarily to go back. So like basically a larger percentage, even if we're treating this as in a vacuum separate from Hall of Legends, should be going back directly to players and teams.
So you're saying more than 30%.
And then,
you're unhappy with the 30%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, not like unhappy with it specifically, but
Just
like
vague.
if we're talking about like how this should work for the health of the game and the esport, I feel like this is such a great avenue for monetization that's not partnerships, which has been like the number one go-to for monetization. And I think sometimes can have a lot of issues, especially with the rise of co-streaming as a massive thing. But like then my issue comes from A, not enough money going back to players and teams, but then B, the fact that it's tied to a Hall of Fame thing, inducting like a current player as part of this, and then looking down the line and being like, okay, who are the next players who are going to be kind of lionized by this thing, and like are they going to be charging the same amount of money? I'm not sure if they even can, because FAKER is such an exception in so many ways. So yeah, that's where like the problems arise for me.
So
Because,
in
like,
a short list, Emily, just because I'm trying to think of the best way to respond to
yeah,
this.
no, it's a lot.
What are the
Sorry.
things? So
I have a lot of
you
thought.
don't like the 30%. You feel like this should have been happening for a while, and then what are the other top points that you're kind of making against it?
I mean, I guess the thing that really rubs me the wrong way most of all is that it's tied into like a Hall of Legends type thing, because I actually think, and FAKER is actually the exception to this, I feel like people do give FAKER his due, but I think overall we're pretty bad at recognizing league history and players for what they are. Like,
Yeah.
I was thinking about this earlier when Kelsey and I were talking about the Legends Cup, which I know no one cares about, but it's fucking hilarious because of all the drama that's gone on.
It's actually
And
so
I was
cool.
thinking to myself, how many people know who Wei Xiao is and like his impact on how AD carry is played as a role? And like, I don't know. I do because I'm fucking old. But like, I don't know how many people do, and I feel like just generally we've done a really poor job of recognizing players both in their time and outside of their time.
So
and
you just think that this
tying
should not be
something like
limited to
this-
Hall of Legends?
Yeah, like I think this should have been going on, tying esports more into monetization, because esports is the largest marketing arm that League of Legends as a game has. So like I don't take issue with that part of it, just like I didn't take issue with the Louis Vuitton line of clothing that they did, right? But at the same time, so I feel like those two things should have been married a lot sooner to make money for both the game and esports as a whole. But then tying it to Hall of Legends really rubs me the wrong way for those reasons, because we already do such a really bad job of like giving players a history and like a place within history. Yeah.
So you're just saying it's
really
frustrating. It sounds like, if I had to sum everything up, you are actually okay with the price point. Your frustrations are more, hey, like, this shouldn't just be this once a year thing. We should be doing skins and in-game connections between the sport and the game more frequently. And the first point was which one, Emily?
The percentage?
Oh, the percentage. Thank you, Kelby.
Yeah, it's more like, and it's not me taking issue specifically with this percentage. It's a more broader thing of like, if we're looking at monetization in the game itself, I don't think this is a bad avenue, and I think I'm kind of surprised it didn't head this way sooner, because like partnerships alone from esports cannot finance esports, as we've seen.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna so assuming Emily is taking this is mostly okay, but I don't like the execution standpoint, which it sounds like kind of where you're at, Emily. I'm gonna add in
I just kind of wanted to start like a broader discussion, I guess, about monetization and like where esports fits in as something that people have said need to be independently profitable while also not being recognized as the largest marketing arm of the game.
So I'm going to dive in connection with Emily in terms of like why I think I'm not that upset about this, which is a very dangerous thing to do. If you have looked at the Reddit right now or Twitter or like a lot of news articles, please do not cancel me. You tune into the show for discussion, and that is what I'm trying to give all of you. Okay. So
find my gun right now.
Just as one other, oh God, Raz's. Just as one other aside, I just want to point out that I have historically done what I think is a pretty good job of defending players when I think that Riot is like not looking out for them or taking advantage of them. A pretty good example of that is the, Worlds 2022 when they were giving players like virtually no time to book flights and hotels and all that stuff for the and get tickets for World Finals and all that stuff like that. I have a record of that. So I'm not doing this because I think players are being taken advantage of or anything like that. One, it is very... I have two major things that I find the outrage on this stuff very ironic. For the past month or two, and I don't want to go down this road too much, but I have heard people constantly using the excuse of, the Saudi Arabia stuff feels shitty, but, they've got to figure out how to make money for esports. Like, everyone's losing money, so, like, of course this kind of makes sense. Or, they're going to allow maybe some gambling stuff, or, they're going to open up these other categories. Well, yeah, but I guess they have to figure out how to make money. And I think part of the reason they have to figure that out is because the vast majority of people, I think, who watch the sport are not supportive of it. None of the people, I'm not referring to any of the people listening to the show or watching it. You guys are all lovely folks. You send in Prime subs, you gift subs, you support my sponsors. You guys are great. But I think a lot of people do this. They like to play the game for free. In fact, I think the majority of people who play League of Legends play it for free, is my understanding. Then they tune into free broadcasts of the stream, of the esports streams, where they are slamming ad block the whole time, and they're watching that. They're watching.
This is gonna be like an Invader Virant. I'm excited.
They're slamming ad block on co-streams, where as soon as the sponsors and commercials pop up in between the games, they're watching Sneaky and Meteos open up Arena or Hades 2 early access, and just completely not even getting any impressions in for these sponsors. So, like, I find it a little ironic that Riot is like, well, fuck, we gotta go find some rich whales to milk because we need that honey because we can't get anybody else to give us money. And then everybody goes, oh God, how could this happen? Like, I don't think overpricing a fucking Ahri skin is this. I've seen people say it's gross, it's disgusting. When I made a joke about Raz potentially defending this take on this on the show, like, people were saying that he should get fired for the broadcast if that's the case. Like, guys, there are so many things that I think people should have gotten more upset about than this. Like the sexual harassment shit that happened for a long time and probably still happens in lesser ways. Still, the ways, in my opinion, the ways in which, like, we're partnering with a fucking totalitarian dictatorship for a international tournament. Like, we have all these things that are terrible, but then whenever you fucking overprice a Ahri skin, everybody comes out of the woodwork to be like, this is fucking disgusting. How dare these people price this way? They are evil people who are trying to take advantage of us, the discerning customers. All we've ever done is not spend any fucking money, ad block the shit out of their streams, and ignore every sponsor moment. How fucking dare these greedy people? So, like, look, yes, I think it's fucking stupid. I would not spend that amount of money for this skin. I do not think the skin is worth it. But guess what, guys? We just spent 7 years finding rich people and taking their money to support our esport. they are no longer giving us the money. We have to find other rich people to give us money to support the esport. Like, that's where we're at now. And anybody who's acting as if this is not the basis and the foundation of how our industry works is deluding themselves while, watching this with ad block and all that stuff. So, like,
This is actually becoming a based take, Travis. You're swinging me
like
here.
I just don't care about like this skin. I won't buy it. I don't need to buy it. How many people actually play Ahri? I know she's incredibly popular, but like probably the majority of people don't. There's a bunch of other like costs that you can spend to get the stuff. You can get this I've heard from sources that like the hall pass is actually probably going to be pretty cool compared to what it normally is. Like when you unlock stuff, you get to see these cool visuals or clips or highlights. Like it tells the story of like FAKER and his career and all that stuff, which I think is pretty unique. And that's like $17. It gets you a skin or it gets you like 4 different skins and some cosmetics and stuff. Like it's not as though you cannot you would think from looking at some of the comments on this stuff that there's no way to interact with this product or this moment unless you are shelling out $500, and that's just not true. I think the only thing to wrap up my monologue that I think is stupid about this is that like Riot really should not have done this for the very first time with like a FAKER Hall of Fame. Because like, look, we're trying to commemorate FAKER. It's this really cool thing. Like you should have done this shit with the Louis Vuitton collab years ago where like it would have made way more sense to have some sort of prestigious like overpriced thing. Like FAKER's brand is the opposite of overpriced. He doesn't play skins. He seems like a very chill, simple dude. He's not walking out with like a fucking gold chain around his neck every time he's on stage or whatever. So like I think if they had done this previously, if they'd set the precedent, it would feel less like money grabby. And so I think that's like the big fuck up for them. But like I just can't find myself moved by like to the outrage and passion that I've seen so many other people get like pour this out. Like who fucking cares? If Riot puts this out there, nobody, just don't buy it. They'll learn their lesson. This shit won't happen again. Yeah, it's a bummer it happened once, but like why is this the end of the goddamn world? I don't know. That's where I'm at.
Okay. I mean, yeah. So I feel like people already know what my take is, but the people that didn't see the last episode probably think that I'm just running full defense for this shit. I don't even like the idea of the Hall of Legends because it's being presented as a Hall of Fame. You guys have even talked about it as being a Hall of Fame, and it's just not. It's just not a Hall of Fame. We had an active player as FAKER that's being thrown into this. And by the way, in the Twitter discussion that we had like a few weeks ago, immediately after your episodes, because you were asking the general population of like what their view of it is. Like I mentioned the slippery slope of adding one active player because who's to say that we won't have more active players? And the problem with it is you make this into basically a popularity contest where the most popular players are going to be incentivized for people to be voting for them. Because if you're voting for the first person who is an active player, who's to say that the next few players, let's just say years from now, Kelby continues to win championship after championship after championship. He's already regarded as one of the best, like if not the best player right now in the world. Like there are going to be fans that would really want for a Kelby or a Mako or a Deft, basically Hall of Legends thing. Because why not? They already had one active player. And now it's not even a slippery slope anymore because of the fact that we've just added what is basically we're whaling fandom with $600 or $200, like whatever it turns out to be for the future, because this one's $600 or $500, whatever the money is, if you initially want to get into this one. And then the next one's probably going to be $200 or $300. Basically, if you want to be showcasing fandom for that player, you're going to have to be a bit of a whale. And so if we're talking about incentivizing the next players, immediately I'm thinking about Soaz or Froggen or there's like so many iconic players that are, European or Western players that have had a huge history with the game that honestly not a lot of people are going to buy. People in Korea and China probably not going to be that ecstatic to pick up a $300 or $400 skin for Soaz. So it's just gonna, someone mentioned Expect, great example. Because like people from China or Korea are probably not going to be as excited for it. So it's just going to be extremely less. So like now you're just going to basically say for however on going forward that it's just going to be the Korean and Chinese players that, as of course they've been the most successful, but also it's going to be the most monetarily positive thing for them to do. So I hate it. Just say what it is, call it what it is. It's just a popularity contest for the most iconic players in the game. That's
But
it.
It's a money grab.
Before I pass it to Kobe and Kelby, I do want to give both you, Raz, and Emily props for one point here that has really resonated with me, which is like, Emily, when you mentioned the like, I don't think they can charge as much as they are for the Faker skin. I was like, well, that would be weird if they like come out next year and there's like the Uzi skin is cheaper or something. But it is kind of true that like, as a business, you have to, when you're figuring out pricing and all this stuff, and you're figuring out how much effort you're going to put into it, you're going to have to model out like what you think the sales will be for this type of thing. And it is very true that like certain players will just sell a lot less. Like Faker will almost certainly be the highest selling of all time, and it's only down from here. So that is like a really good point that I had not considered.
Yeah, I would have said toys if that man was not already in prison. So.
Oh boy.
Oh God, Rez.
I'm just putting that out there. All right, I'm just throwing that out there.
Oh God. No, I was thinking. So the reason why I brought that up is because that's where it also being tied, and obviously, yes, it's not a Hall of Fame, but like that's where it being tied to a Hall of Legends thing, and all of the stuff that Raz just said about inducting current players ties in, because I think the only other player you would probably be able to charge a price point for this would be Uzi. I would think.
Yeah.
Because to Raz's point, like you think of someone again like Diamond Prox who had a really like interesting effect on how people played jungle, and I think really deserves his place in history. And it kind of points to how we just haven't done a very good job of celebrating League esports history in a way that's kind of stuck.
Yeah, I also think if they're only doing one a year, it becomes becomes very strange, right? Because I think you get to a point where fans and voters and Riot are far less incentivized. Like let's say fuck it, let's just say it.
If it's not Uzi next year, I'm shocked. Let's just
Well,
say
yeah,
that.
it's got to be Uzi, right? But like, how many years down the line before you would get to like a double lift skin? Right, he's one of probably the players that would make the most sense from a Western side. He's got like a pretty big international audience. He's played for a really long time. I know there are some people that are sitting here vomiting at the thought of this because they're gonna be like, he didn't have international results, blah 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 blah. But like, dude's been around for a long time. So what is he? Year 6, year 7, year 10? Like at a certain point in time, it gets really weird because if he hasn't played in a really long time, and you have a bunch of new players, they're not likely to want to get his skin. So do you just never like put this person in? I don't know. I think that is, I think actually this point though, I would say is divorced from the cost of the skin. Because like even if this 500 skin was not out and it was just like, okay, we've got like a $20 package or like a $15 package and then like a $50 package, I actually think you run into the same problem anyway. So we are kind of going off topic if mostly we're just talking about the Faker one, but I do think it's like an interesting point of contention. Cubby or Kelby, I don't know if you guys want to monologue. We've all monologued at this point in time.
You want to go, Kelby?
I want to monologue. I want to ask Emily some questions about her points to kind of like get behind her reasoning on some things. So Cubby, I don't know if you wanted to go first, but
I mean, I was going to add like a few points of context. Like, so one, when Travis was going on his rant about how people don't spend money on esports, I agree. NPR did a recent episode of like, I forget which podcast it was, but it was covering esports. And I think in the episode, they revealed that the average esport fan spends $5.68 a year on their favorite org or like their teams. That's nothing, right? You cannot sustain an industry off that. So if I'm going to get on board with Travis's take of like, hey, let's go hunt for some whales and have big ticket items, I think using the client is like the only way to do it and tying it to esports. I think one mistake the Riot made that like is easily fixable, just be clear about like how much money Faker's getting versus the teams. This could have been a nice moment to be like, hey, the team's going to get, 15% and Faker gets 15%. Like, why do I have to sit here fucking questioning like what goes where, right? And I think that fans really want to support FAKER in this. Like, he is like the all-time great player. We are so lucky as an esport to have FAKER be as good as he is for as long as he has been and be the ambassador to the game that he is. Like, people want to support him. So what is going to him versus what is going to this new bucket that you thought of that's going to be really helpful for the teams in the long haul?
Can I interject there, Cubby, to ask you and Emily the question then? Because this was one of the questions that I had. What do you guys think is... You said that 30% was probably not the number in your mind, Emily. I'm curious for the group's thought on what the correct number is, and maybe it's a specific context number for FAKER in particular. I could definitely see that argument. For the revenue share back to that pool, and then how much of that do you think should go to FAKER versus the revenue pool of the teams? Emily? Just because you
Emily, are you still here with us?
Yeah, do you want me to go? Yeah. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Because
Kelby's
I
asking
wasn't. This is kind of because this is why. So like Kelby can totally call me out on this. This is why I didn't want to get into like a specific percentage.
Disclaimer:
because...
I'm not looking to call anybody out. I'm just genuinely
curious
for
totally
thoughts.
Can.
I will share my thoughts as well, but I'm not like more. This is kind of new territory, so.
Yeah, because my thoughts around like the percentage going to players and then FAKER specifically revolves more around the fact that I just don't think esports players, like so esports pro players individually, and then to a lesser extent teams, have been recognized monetarily for their job that they've done as marketing for the game. Because like the game itself and esports itself are very siloed. So that's more my like broader issue. I don't have a number in mind. I just think like I think it was Jonathan in the Twitch chat that was making this point where like once you get to, okay, FAKER gets 15% and then the rest of the 15% gets continuously diluted down into like a very general rev sharing of just the 3 major region teams, then that is, it becomes so diluted at that point, and the vast majority of the money still isn't going to teams and players. So mine was less about naming a specific price point from my end and just kind of bringing up the lack of recognition of esports as a marketing arm for League of Legends as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just like, I'll be quick with it. I think FAKER should get 10. Like, I'm gonna use the 30% bucket they gave, so I'm not gonna change that number. FAKER should get 10% of that. T1 and LCK should get a bigger cut than the rest of the teams, and then the rest
FAKER should get 10% of the 30% bucket, or 10% of the gross revenue.
10% gross revenue.
So a third of the 30% bucket. Yeah.
Yes. Why not? Like, I mean, give them 10% of like any and all sales. I feel like that number 2 is better for actually marketing the skin and getting people to want to buy it.
Quick pause here, by the way. There's a lot of people in the chat, maybe they missed the beginning or they weren't paying attention, saying like, what do you mean other teams? So we talked about this earlier, but the Hall of Legends digital asset is part of a concerted effort by Riot to create a variety of digital assets released over the year that will go into a pool of money that gets distributed to the teams and helps cover the costs of running esports for Riot, because they've realized that they're never going to make the money back on sponsorships, and they realize that the teams are not going to be able to make what they thought they could make. So this is their new strategy, which is like, we're going to try to sell esports stuff and the client and the game. We're going to try to give some of and then we are going to dedicate some of that to the teams. So like tier 1 teams and et cetera, et cetera. You can go look up John Needham's article from March of this year on Google. I'd say the LoL Esports website, but I don't even know if it's there because their site fucking sucks. And you'll see sort of their breakdown. They do some percentage breakdowns of how that gets divvied up to the team. So just readdressing that. Anyway, back to Cubby and Kelby's conversation.
Okay.
Go Rez.
Yeah, can I for me, if we're going to have the Hall of Legends come through and the skin itself, I would like to see a larger percent going to the player, because for FAKER, obviously he's already pretty wealthy, and so like the maybe 15% or whatever it may be is gonna make him even wealthier because people will probably just buy a shitload of this one. But for the next player, whoever it may be it like Ambition or Prey or Gorilla, whoever it is that are probably not doing as well, the fans would want them to at least a peace of mind that they're being taken care of post League of Legends. So I'd probably want 30%, like a large portion going to that player individually.
That's a ton. Yeah.
Yeah, because like for Faker, yes, a lot of people are going to be paying for the skin, but I'm sure at some point, I'm imagining that someone is not going to be popular, but is going to have a pretty large footprint within the game. That's what you would want a Hall of Legends / or if you're thinking of it as a Hall of Fame, then that's what you would want for a player to be taken care of for the rest of their life with a skin like this. That's what I'm thinking. But I mean,
I think 10% does that personally.
But, yeah, I think so too.
We don't know the growth number.
I mean, I think so. So Kelby and I did some math. Kelby, you want to talk about sort of the math we did earlier in our group chat?
I wasn't going to say that. I was just going to say I personally am not a fan of like the whole means-based argument. Like, oh, Faker has enough, so we would give a lesser percentage to him, but a higher percentage to somebody else who, may not be doing as well fiscally.
We got to redistribute wealth, Kelby. Okay.
Yeah. I think that for me, I always look at this conversation based off of contribution and value provided, right? And I think that Faker's contribution to the esport, the popularity of the game, its growth, his accomplishments in it over time is an outlier that would justify perhaps him being on the higher end for these shares as opposed to the lower end. And if that means that Faker ends up getting 22.5, to reference our conversation earlier, Travis, $1 million from the skin, because I personally feel that I would have him at 15%, so half of the share that's going back to these groups.
Kelby, are you taking clients right now?
I'm just saying that, like, on a principle perspective, also, and like not completely applicable, but when you're looking at other industries and like revenue share that go back to licensing parties and stuff like that, 15% is definitely fair and reasonable for I think what Faker would provide here. But yeah, that would be $22.5 million. And the way that we got to this number, Travis, if you want me to get into that, is that so we kind of looked before, like, okay, what do we think that Riot, and this could be completely crazy, but like looking at
we're just trying to ballpark. We're just trying to get like back of the napkin ballpark paper math here.
Yeah, but comps for this in terms of like what this skin could actually generate in revenue, right? Which is, all right, if we look at what, and you know me, I love Dota. If you look at like what the TI compendium or battle pass has done historically in that space, they do 25% rev share of the TI battle pass back to the Dota 2 prize pool. They raise like $40 million. So the battle pass is doing roughly $160 million in revenue generation. Now, I think that the average Dota player probably has a higher participation and level of investment in the compendium than we would see in the Ahri skin. That said, League of Legends has a much larger player base. So maybe it would be fair to say that those things like net out, and we're using like the $150 million revenue generation mark as like a base for assumption of what this skin could earn.
Yeah. So if the idea is that the skin, so just to kind of bring it all back in, folks, like Kelby and I, just for fun, we're just sort of saying like, what could this be? Because based off of the Dota numbers and all that stuff, we're like, let's just say it's 150 million, because that's at least some sort of data that we know in the space. So if it's 150 million, a third of that is going to the teams and to Faker and some split we don't know about. That's going to be roughly a little bit less than like 50 million. We can just say 50 million.
Yeah, it's 45.
So we don't know the number exactly. It's a lot of math, but somewhere around 50 million. And then we that's sort of where you're thinking. Like if we're giving Faker, like, do we need to give Faker 50 million if this is the case? To Kelby's point, maybe the argument should never be we think about what the final number is. Maybe it should just think about it as a percentage. My counterpoint, Kelby, would be like, if we're talking about what percentage, now we're getting really in the weeds, right? But like if we're talking about, you're saying like Faker has a higher contribution, I think that gets reflected naturally in the fact that he's rev sharing, right? Like higher contribution means this thing's going to be the highest selling it'll ever be. And so that means he's going to make more money because he's like put in more value to like the quote unquote partnership, right?
Yeah. I just think principally as well that I'm not saying that I would do the percentages any differently for Faker. I'm just saying that that could be an argument that I would certainly, if you were talking about doing different percentages for different people, I would not look at like Faker has enough, we should give him less as a product of that. I would say, if anything,
all right,
Faker
Faker,
deserves
show us
more.
your fucking savings account. We're gonna go. We're gonna
Yeah. We're trying to determine your percentage. We want to know your net worth.
Yeah.
My only problem with, so my issue is, at least with a compendium, there's a shared, community want in making it so that the winner of the international event makes more. Where in this case, it is pure fandom for the player that's up there.
But really, Raz, and everybody knows this.
Okay.
People buy it for the fucking pretty skins, all right? The reason that the compendium drives so much revenue each year is not because everybody's altruistic and you're like, you know what, we really want to see team spirit rewarded in the ways that they are. It's like Valve pushes more and more shit into that product each year, and it gets shinier and it gets better. You know what I mean?
Okay, I did not know that. That's hilarious. That's good.
Yeah, no, they've that shit up.
Okay.
Yeah.
But at least my concern in this case for League is that, like, it's just pure popularity based off of which player that's going to be there. So I remember when I think it was Mistake that got his world skin, and it was Nunu, and he was like, I just wish that I picked a more popular champion, because he just said that he wasn't making much money off the skin to begin with. So it's like, it has to be. Yeah, he did. Oh my, I hate my life. But like, it's about the popularity of the player, and maybe there's going to be a point where the player is not widely popular globally. Like I mentioned, the European players, if that ever does actually happen, then yeah, it's probably going to be the lowest selling skin that they have for this line. And then, so I want it to be a larger number and for it to be flat, but either way, like, that's the only concern that I had.
So the last thing I really want, because I know we've gone really long on this call, and I'm sure we'll do more time.
I'm not done with it yet.
Oh,
can I ask Emily another question when you're done?
Yeah, just go for it.
Let's go.
Actually, no,
Emily.
wait, because this is still on topic. Okay. Here's the challenge, guys, because
I'm locked.
This is to what Emily was saying on this topic, which was the esport doesn't get recognized enough for its contribution. So I want to give some context for people here. One of the challenges that Riot has in trying to figure out if they want to make an esports skin is actually very similar to the challenge that Valve has, which is like, all right, we can put all this effort into making this like really fancy Faker skin, or we could just make that like Wild Rampage. That's a terrible name. Like the extreme awesome Ahri skin. And they put all that stuff in, and then they don't have to give the fucking esports people anything. Because what people don't understand is that, like, and Emily referenced this earlier, esports is a different company even. Actually, it's like the same way there's Alphabet, which owns, like, Google and all that stuff. Like, esports is a different arm. Like, John Needham is the CEO of the esports thing. He is a very different, like, bottom line than what, like, the company that makes the video game of League of Legends is. So if you're the guy who, I think Andre Van Roon, who's the executive producer of League of Legends, you're like, okay, I could go make this, I could dedicate all these fucking resources to making this like really expensive, big Ahri thing, take over the client, all that stuff for Faker, or I could just go do that but not put Faker on it, and I don't have to give Faker or these other teams or the esports department or anything like that any of the money that I make from this. So, like, why should I do that? Or they could also go do, like, a fucking licensing deal with, like, New Jeans and make a New Jeans Ahri skin, and maybe New Jeans will only take, like, 20% or 15% or something like that. And maybe the New Jeans one would sell just as well. I don't know. A fucking Taylor Swift Ahri skin. I don't know. So,
Now we're cooking.
No, thank you. So, like, I think
Sydney Sweeney will save League, you know.
That is one of the challenges for them and the equations on this stuff. I'm not saying it should be. I'm just trying to talk about like how this stuff is structured internally and why it leads to these moments. Because like, yes, esports has done a lot. Yes, Faker has done a lot. If I'm getting graded on how much money I'm bringing in and I have to give 30% of that back to these esports guys who can't seem to get their P&L underline and spend all this crazy money on things like Ren and Riot broadcast centers and all this stuff, like I think it's I'm not I'm somewhat surprised that this exists in the first place. I guess is what I would say, knowing some of the economics here.
Like they have to, but like that's half the issue we have is that this shit should have existed earlier, and it doesn't feel like a whole thing. I feel like one of the issues is the fact they did this with a current player. It does open it up to the fact that the criticism is that it's a money grab, but also I feel like Riot didn't hit the iron hot, especially with a lot of the players that were described earlier. Like, is Doublelift ever going to get a skin? And like for the impact that esports has on skins, I still use Dragon Slayer Vayne, even though that skin is crap by today's standards, because Uzi and Doublelift use that skin in their career. Like when I was a fan way back when, I used the Froggen Anivia skin, like he used Team Spirit and
Kelby, your point falls apart when you're talking about FAKER. What skins do you use because FAKER uses those skins?
I mean, I'm tying the fact that like esports has a big impact on this game, and to use FAKER as an example, there was a big spike in how many people played Azir after that shuffle against JDG in the series against Worlds.
Sure.
Riot has never tied these two things together. And like my hope for all this is that it really is, outside of the World skins, the first time that they've actually tied this together. And hopefully get more money to the teams who are getting funded by this, Travis. So I don't know. I don't know if Riot like ever unleashed their IP to the world to like do stuff like a New Jeans collab or anything like that, but I don't know. It's
okay.
At least like this exists. I think that there are a ton of fuck ups with it, but I hope that it gets better as time goes on.
Kelby, you had one more question for Emily, I think.
I was about to,
My question actually was getting exactly to the point that you and Cubby just made, which was, I thought that actually I quite liked the fact that Riot tied it to this and was curious kind of if there was a suggestion for an alternative product, because I know that they go through that internal struggle that you were describing, Travis. And I thought that this is actually the way that they've done it is a way that you could justify internally the opportunity cost, because this is something where you can say tying it to this person and this product increases the value and monetization potential of this, even considering the rev split. And maybe internally they look at it and they're like, maybe we don't actually feel that way. But I think that probably is the point. I don't know if that still exists beyond FAKER, but I think it does make sense. And then the last like thing I would say, and the only monologue part that I would have, is just that on the price point itself, ethically, I don't think that there's anything wrong with it because we're staying away from the gotcha mechanics. I do think that long term, obviously Riot internally has a lot of smart people and a lot of data folks who are like, they did not arrive at this price point without much discernment and analysis, right? I still think that probably long term, in hindsight, it would not surprise me if they looked at this as a poor decision, because even if it monetizes efficiently to the way that they like, I think that we have seen from today that the brand damage to Riot is notable, and it will not show up today in dollars and cents, but long-term decisions like this is how your company perception changes from where it is to becoming more that of EA, more that of Ubisoft, in terms of how a lot of the public views your decisions around treating the consumer base. This is just an opportunity where everybody is popping off on social media complaining about the price point. The top 10 threads on the subreddit at one point today were all discussing the skin in a negative way. And for me, it's really sad because nobody's talking about how cool the skin is. Nobody's talking about celebrating FAKER's moment. Nobody's talking about this, that, or the other. It is all just bashing on the price. And that indicates to me that the pricing was...
So I do want to make sure we get like a non-League of Legends esports personality to discuss this. And I think that that's where we'll probably dive more into the specific pricing. We're also an hour into the show. So I think we will kind of wind it down here on this call. Emily, is there anything you want to add to anything that we've just mentioned here at the end?
No, I don't think so.
Well, short and sweet.
I think I did a poor job of making my initial points, but we've ended up discussing them. So I think the last thing I would say though is that I do think it does make me sad that there isn't some sort of Hall of Fame or like way that we can really recognize outside of monetizing them within the game, which is only tangentially related to the Faker skin, right? This is just me as like someone who cares way too much about esports history. Is that like I do wish we had some sort of Hall of Fame to be able to recognize players who have contributed to the game, like two that I mentioned previously were Wei Xiao and Diamond Proc, so I don't think either of whom would make it into a Hall of Legends as it stands, but who made like significant contributions to the way the game was played in like seasons 1, 2.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe this will be the thing that will inspire me to get off my ass and write like a League of Legends history encyclopedia that like 2 people will read.
I did
and
like
I will lose all
the
fun on
walkout they
God.
did for LCS 10. I thought that was a really cool moment. So I agree with you that it would be nice to see stuff like this. So
something that like quickly that I really enjoyed. I remember 100 Thieves did their like Hall of Fame induction thing for their players.
Yeah, that
like
was
Sunday.
nice.
That was really cool. Now I don't know if they still have those players in the back of that, like in the back of their compound. But either way, like what I came across as like a really memorable moment was the fact that they had people who were on stage speaking about the players and their history and what they provided for the organization, and then they had the player themselves. Someday even cried on stage, like talking about how thankful, the position that he was put in. That is when the player truly feels appreciated. So that would be really cool.
I want the David Tennant award moment where he doesn't realize it's a lifetime award, and then they do the whole thing. Shout out to anyone who's seen that clip. It's like very inspiring. Thanks so much, Emily. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Shout out Kelsey Moser and Making the Rounds, which is the show I do every week that I actually did earlier today.
And now we learn why Emily really called in. She used the guise of the Faker skin to promote a competing podcast.
Because I do such a good job of promoting myself.
She's so great.
Also, shout out to Raz. Our desks at MSI were super fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Raz is a great coworker, and everyone should love Raz.
Okay,
honestly.
calm down.
Also, I'll say this: shout out to Raz because I was fucking super nervous to go on the vertical stream, and he made it so easy. So yeah, it was great.
And you paid me back with Lysandra noises. I don't know about that one. Lysandra.
I almost just did it again into the mic, and I'm like, no.
Oh my god.
Now is not the time.
It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Emily, for calling in. I appreciate it. We'll catch you next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, Emily.
All right. Are we diving into another Faker conversation, or are we palate cleansing?
We have one more, unfortunately.
Okay, wait.
And then that's it. That's
maybe.
it. Maybe.
Okay. Do we want here? I'm going to let Twitch chat vote if we palate cleanse into a different call, or if we keep going with Faker.
It kind of depends what the view is, because I like the talk about the microtransaction. Because look, if people want to be a whale for the $200 Jin skin or something, that's fine. The only thing that I hate in this game that's like random microtransaction is TFT's like
gotcha thing.
That's the real gotcha element there. That's the one.
No, we should talk about that whenever we get the call. But I'm letting people vote right now. It's up for a little bit. It's overwhelmingly Faker right now. So I think we can assume that we're gonna stay on the Faker topic. So go ahead and Cubby, we can go grab them.
The real food for thought is, when are we gonna get a market in the game to trade skins? And then we get to set the price on our own. That's the real question.
Then it's an investment. Then when I'm fucking I'm buying 10 Faker skins and I'm scalping the shit out of that. That's how I'm funding Hotline League. Who worries about sponsors when I can just scalp the shit out of Faker skins?
We can control the market, Travis.
It's true. All right. Off Cubby goes to grab the next caller. We've got some subs that have hit in the last hour of our discussion. We got Tamain, Zabel, As to Mouth 69420. We just played Paluya, Treethan, Minor Biscuit, I am Elvis, Shonatonin, SLC Soyboy, Above the Ocean, Slawcat, Jordan, Swede gifted us up to Flowers and Whoopley, Juju Beans, Palace, Kitchen Commander, Farmer Span, Cherry Lace with 69 months, thanks. Big Ass Bow, Hobnobbin for 5 or gifted 5 subs, and then Real Foxy 1 showed up with 78 months and said, "I'm sorry I'm late, still Kelby's biggest fan." Thank you to Bob and George over on YouTube for
Real
the
Foxy
membership.
one.
Mike Spam, welcome to the show. Where are you calling from?
Calling from just outside of Seattle. How are you guys?
Doing well, thank you. I'm going up to Tacoma next month for Command Fest Tacoma, so I'll be
Sorry
back
to
there.
hear that.
Sorry to hear that. What do you? All right, goodbye.
Damn. What's wrong with Tacoma, Mike Spam?
The smell.
Oh my god.
The Tacoma aroma?
Yes.
What does it smell like?
Industrial. It's not great. It's like the worst ocean smell with like the worst factory smell.
Oh, Jesus
I was
Christ.
downtown there last year and I did not get any of that. But I don't know.
Yeah,
Whatever.
it's not real.
It's not real. Okay, yeah. Kelby's
No,
from
no,
that area too,
it's
so
kinda
he can
real.
That's where I
contest
went
this.
to school. Yeah.
There you go. Maybe it's like when I go to Norco and you smell cows, but the people that there don't smell that. All right. Anyway, Mike Spam, what do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, I'm here to ask where Nick Allen is and ask why we have Kelby instead.
Oh my god.
No,
Listen,
the actual
The
take
question
I
of
have
where is Nick Allen
oh.
is one that I ask myself every fucking day when I'm in a group chat with him and he never talks. So I'm right there with you. Oh, there he goes. We lost Kelby. You sent Kelby out of the show. It's Jover. Anyway, Mike Spam, what do you want to talk about really?
Oh, I'm here to say that I'm really happy to be buying the Ahri skin unironically because as a very long time LOL Esports fan, there's been no real way to actually show my investment in the scene, and this is the first time I feel like there's actually been a way to do so.
What
So the
which
world
skin are you going to be
skins?
buying?
Oh, I'm buying the $500 bundle.
Oh,
Okay.
Jesus Christ.
We
God-
found a whale.
Cubby, we're gonna get flamed so hard because the show's gonna be, Ebliate calling in with like just a general conversation piece around it, and then Kelby left the channel and he can't get back in. There we go. We dragged him back in.
No, Travis, you're Moby Dick, and we're going whale hunting. to see
Cubby, I'm
who
sorry.
can buy
Mike
a fake
Spam's
skin.
take was that he can't wait to buy the skin because for a long time he's felt like there hasn't been a way to support League Esports financially, and he's now doing it with a $500 skin. And I was bemoaning to Cubby that everyone's going to flame us because Emily came in with a general take, and then we've got one of the 10 people on the planet who are just like proudly beating their chest at the ability to buy the skin. All right, go ahead, Mike Spam. Go ahead. What do you explain this?
Okay, so let's go back in time to 2019. Do you remember how you could financially support the LCS back then?
You could
Buy the
buy
icon.
icons in the game. You could buy jerseys or merch from teams. You could mail money to the pro players or give them money on their stream.
Okay, you are
Turn
forgetting
off ad
the
block.
best part of LCS history, which was the LCS fan pass. Do you remember this?
Was that the was that for the No, this was before they had the not co-stream. Why am I forgetting the
The hell is a fan pass?
No,
Okay,
was
so-
the fan pass the thing where you could why am I forgetting the fucking name?
Well, then let him
it-
explain it, Travis.
The individual
hell?
streams, the individual streams.
You got
No,
prom
POV.
So
promos.
the fan pass
The POV
was
ProView,
a battle
ProView, thank you.
pass you could buy in 2019 spring, where it would give you missions to watch LCS games. Again, you had to buy the battle pass for like $15 or something. If you watched enough LCS games, you could pick one team. You could only buy this once for one team. You would get an icon, an emote, a ward skin supporting the team, and a generic Braum chroma.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah.
I know that.
And so, I bought a Clutch Gaming one just because I figured no one else on the planet would. And to this day, I've never seen anyone else with the Clutch Gaming ward skin. That's been the only way to, like, in client, show you're an actual LCS esports fan.
No, you could
Outside
also
of
buy
the
the
game.
icons before then. That's not the only way. You could get a lot of these icons. Like
Yeah.
I have, there were like
But, like,
fucking XDG
yeah, you can
icons.
get an icon you can show, and you can only show one at a time. So God forbid you have 2 teams throughout history you like.
I'm just
then
saying
they have
there
the
were other
emote
ways to
wheel.
do it. But
You
yes,
can only
this is
wear
of
one
the ways.
Ahri skin at a time.
Yeah.
So
Can we just say, Mike Spam, you're turning into a bit of an extremist. Because you're saying that because nothing existed, barely anything, that you're fine dishing out $500 now.
let's let him finish before
my
you
bad, my
freaking
bad.
David
Because-
Kim this guy.
Okay,
Or Greg Kim,
my
sorry.
bad.
Greg Kim.
Because even outside of the game, like, do you know how hard it is to actually support LOL esports and like have stuff to wear that isn't bad? Like, if we're being honest with each other, like, have you guys looked at the T1 merch shop in terms of what your options are?
I mean, I've been to the T1
Actually,
LAN
Whose
center.
fault is that?
my roommate got a drop for T1 because he has a lot of TikTok followers, and I will say their merch is like pretty fire in this latest drop.
Like,
Big fan.
I believe it, but throughout history as a fan, there hasn't been a lot of opportunities, especially for outside the big teams. Like, for me, I see this as, oh, I'm finally getting an option to support LOL esports. I'm finally getting an option to show I'm a dedicated super fan. Like,
Yeah, but you're mixing things here, right? You're saying it's like, sorry, I know Kelby wanted me to finish, but like I think a lot of your argument doesn't resonate with me because like you're saying there's not been a way to show you're an LCS fan, so you have to go buy this this FAKER skin, and you're saying there hasn't been a lot of ways to support LoL esports, but like there was Worlds Unlocked, there was ProView, there's been like skins that were like world champion skins. Like there have been a lot of historically like LoL esport like I agree LCS has not been great about this stuff. I think Team Liquid and 100 Thieves are probably the ones. Maybe Cloud9 are probably the big 3 that have done the best at this type of stuff. But like I agree overall. Like if you want to do stuff in client, the LCS hasn't had a great way. But like there's been a lot of LoL esports options.
Yeah, and I've bought them all. It's like, this is someone who this is gonna sound really cringe. I apologize for putting this out into ether, but like considering most of my like, if we break down my day, most of my time I'm not wearing a suit. I spend in the like League of Legends ecosystem. So to me,
Yes, Mike Spam.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, that's huge. We need more of you.
So to me, it's like, okay, when I'm in the League of Legends ecosystem, I want to represent my interests, and so I choose to do so through all the various LOL esports microtransactions. It's like, ergo, I see the Ahri thing, and I go, yes, is a massive supporter who is going to watch a couple 100 hours of LCS esports each year. Of course I want to participate in this, and of course I want to show it off. You know, I have a coworker who, when we saw the announcement this morning, he said, "Oh, I'm buying it," and then I said, "I am too." You know.
Okay, I think for the panel, folks, I think we should take this as an opportunity, as we are a panel interviewing somebody who's going to spend the $500 on this skin.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of people that are curious about this, so we should learn about this person and their motivations. So we're doing this is a research study that we're doing right now on behalf of the League of Legends fans everywhere. So who wants to dive in first?
Well,
Jake
I would.
I'm not a tech bro, by the way.
No. Mike Spam, I would say, and panel. Do you guys agree principally that we probably don't have an issue with the concept of this? It's more around the monetization strategy.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So if you're gonna make the Emily, all right. Allow me this, Cubby. Because I have a follow-up question for Mike Spam, which is assuming that we are down with the way that this skin has been released and it's a good product. We think it's a good product, and we want Mike Spam to be able to have it. Mike Spam, do you think that the price point is something that makes this more attractive to you, in that you know that it is more exclusive, not as many people will have it, so you're happy to pay the $500, and maybe you would be less interested if everything else was the same but it was at a lower price point?
Are we by lower? Are you talking something like $30 or lower like $300?
Let's say $100. It's expensive, but it's not 5 times that expensive.
What's the most expensive thing that's been released in the game, like skin wise?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like
That's probably
30.
the gym skin, isn't it?
It's like 3150 RP. No, something like that.
If we're talking not gacha, it would have to be one of the.
People say Jin Chroma. Jin Chroma is $200. It looks like what people are saying in chat.
Okay,
let's say
let's say it
300.
matches Jin Chroma then,
Okay.
or even more, a little bit more expensive.
250.
Yeah.
250.
Sure.
If it was gacha, I wouldn't buy it at all. If it was a flat rate for 250, I'd be just as interested.
Okay.
Because there is prestige to it.
Yeah.
Is there a price point that it comes down to where it is less interesting to you because you feel like it becomes more available for a larger group of people, and now everybody's going to have your Ahri skin?
Not that. So the skin is separate from the rest of the bundle for me.
Okay.
If it was down to 50, let's just speak in easy numbers. If it was down to 50, everything would feel more superfluous, and I'd be like, I'll just get the tier 2 version of the skin. Because the prestige comes from the exclusivity, and it's the exclusivity of everything in the bundle.
I was about to say, we'll say there is a lot in the bundle that is being, like, there's a ward skin in there. There's like a lot of other stuff you can get.
So it's like, even if I'm not going to play, right? Because if we're making the argument just based on the skin, that would mean in order to show it off, I have to get Ahri every game, right? Well, what if I don't want to play Ahri because I'm not an Ahri one trick? I still want to have, and with the smaller stuff, it's more subtle. So other people, so it's weirdly feels like less of a flexing money thing, as opposed to, hey, other people will recognize it and be like, oh, interesting, that guy bought the giant Faker bundle. Because, like, I have a coworker, again, massive Faker fan. Like, anything Faker he can buy, he has bought. To him, this is not about flexing it, it's about, I want as much Faker stuff as I can, so I'm going to get the giant Faker bundle. For me, it's about flexing it.
I feel like the content, like for instance the signature splash art where it has like Faker's signature on it, and the apparently signature move, you press Control 5. That's like only specific to the highest paying bundle. So I think people will just get it for those specifically, so they can showcase their fandom.
But Flowers in the chat, Raz, I can get the rookie signature on the IG skins if I paid big time back then because he was MVP, and I still have that icon. So I bought that skin.
But like this one is a different. That one's a world's. Whoever wins worlds gets that.
But it still exists in the game.
Yeah, so like people will literally just get this just simply because it has Faker's signature in the splash art in the game. So like I do think that people will just shell out for the signature thing regardless of the price point. Yeah. So like my question to you would be, is this your ideal way of showcasing your fandom as like an esports fan? Like, because at least from Valorant has team skins, I guess, for like guns or something to that nature. And it seems like in this case, would you want more? Because like this year it seems like it's Faker. Next year it's going to be, I'm assuming, just another player, just one player specifically, and maybe it's not the player that you're fandom. What would you ideally want to kind of fulfill that fandom for you in game?
I'm going to give an annoying answer and say I don't know for sure, but I can recognize the Hall of Legends thing is something being distinct from regular LOL esports fandom. If you remember every Worlds, or at least up until this most recent one, you could buy an icon and then it would say in the chat, X player is supporting X team. It would be nice to be able to have that for the regular season, all the different teams there, and then you punch it up when you get to Worlds, things of that nature. Just things to show, hey, I am an LOL esports fan, and I am, when I play League, wanting to represent that. Here is some way to represent that. Because again, going back to the Braum Chroma, do you know like how rare it is for you to actually get to show that off and then have someone recognize, oh, that guy's an LOL esports fan? Like, it is a generic looking Braum Chroma, you know? Even if there's nothing on the title screen, there's nothing in game, it's just a random Braum recolor that you have to hope people recognize.
Yeah.
And again, you guys didn't even know there was an LCS fan pass where you could buy a Braum Chroma, you know? It's like,
Yeah, micspam. I never get invites to play, dude.
Yeah.
No, you.
I think
Kelby, you could just.
Oh,
buy,
sorry, go
it
ahead,
was
Travis.
advertised. If you were watching, the idea is that, what you don't, not getting invites to play does not have anything to do with the fan pass. That's like saying I never get invited to watch to play NFL, so I didn't know about Red Zone.
yeah. I was just making a joke. I think that I worry that Mike spam that. Well, maybe not worry. It's not the right word. I think the thing that you want that is maybe in conflict with the development team is what Travis was speaking to earlier, which is somebody like Mike Spam likes and will purchase all the esports related products that we set the team against developing, right? But then it's the opportunity cost of, if we develop something for a specific team, will it sell as well if it's unbranded and then we don't have to do the rev share element around it, right? But generally it sounds like, hey, the more aspects of the game that we can productize and brand for our esports partnerships, I'm down. Like a good example, I don't know if they do this in League or not. Something that I saw that they did in Dota, I'm sorry, that I really liked that they did is that they, when you recall the base, you know, like in League, when you press B or when you teleport, you have like this team icon effect that appears around your
League
character.
A bunch, yeah.
Okay, great. I thought that was cool.
I think the challenge that Kelby was kind of getting at Mike Spam is that if they try to sell a skin that had like a Shopify Rebellion banner on it, it would sell worse than if the banner had nothing on it.
Did not exist.
Right.
Yeah.
Because no one is going to buy a skin that says Shopify Rebellion on it.
To something you guys were getting at earlier, let's say Uzi is the next skin. Well, as someone who does not like Uzi, I would, even despite all of this, I would not purchase the skin because even though no one else would see it, in my mind, that's still the message of I don't want to support Uzi.
Yeah.
So
that's fair. And we are kind of going back a little bit onto previous topics, so I do want to move on to the next one because we've been going for so long and we have one more person who's angry about this, so we want to get them on. But Mike Spam, you've been useful in guiding this conversation. I will say, Mike Spam, one person in the subtopics chat on Discord wrote, "Can we talk about how this guy says that they want to show their fandom of the league and they're writing it from the pleb rooms and isn't sub to Travis's channel? Can spend $500 to show fandom but can't shell out for the sub?" And I want to be clear, that's not my opinion.
That is crazy.
I did think it was important to make sure that, like, you know, we had all sides represented here. So,
but Travis,
yes,
well,
that is crazy.
When you can get Kelby on more than once a year, maybe I'll consider financially supporting the show.
Well, you know, Kelby, Faker's never had Kelby on, so
I knew this was a base caller, dude. Holy moly!
Mike Spam, anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Since someone said I'm going to be the person to save Tier 2 by overspending on League, shout out to all the players.
To be clear, Tier 2's not getting any of this funding.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Shout out to all the high school players who are going to hear this and then decide they're going to keep playing League instead of going to play Smash Bros.
So true. All right,
Thank you.
thanks
Are
so
we
much.
worried about the high school league players bleeding into Smash? Is that the
If
a
you
real
listen
problem.
to certain esports podcasts with certain former LCK casters, yes, we're going to lose the scene because all of the league players are going into Smash instead
Oh,
of playing.
that sounds like a topic Kelby needs to bring up with a close personal friend of his. Thanks so much,
Okay.
Mike Spam, for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
All right.
All right. We've got one more call on this topic, and then we're going to go on to something else. But I did want to make sure, a lot of people are angry about this. I wanted to make sure we got at least one call from somebody who's angry about this. So I asked Kelby for it. There we go.
Yeah. Hopefully this is a banger.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Oh, no new subs. Mike Spam, not only. Oh, there we go. Cool455. Thank you for the tier 1.
Travis,
somebody
Yes.
gift a sub to Mike Spam?
you're really stopping us. You're inhibiting us from making this a great piece of content by just flaming.
By
just
what?
being angry.
But,
by
oh,
flaming.
I should be angry?
No, we should. We just had an interview session with someone we disagreed with. We should be grilling him.
Oh, I'm going to
Honestly,
disagree with
I
our
thought he
next
was
caller,
spitting
who
facts.
is Waka. Waka, where are you calling from?
Long Beach, California.
Long Beach. Okay, I went to school there. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So I'm the polar opposite of the last caller. I honestly, I feel that this $500 and even the other, all the other versions of it, even the $50 version is a worse ultimate skin. Like, all of it sets a very scary precedent, and you guys touched on it, that these new players who are going to be put into this Hall of Legends are just going to be like tainted by this complete and other, basically worse than a gacha game levels of scam.
What? Okay. Well, there's a lot of things I want to get into there.
That's not
Kelby-
true.
Let's start with
All right,
how
anyway,
this is.
sorry. Is there more than this?
Let's start with how. Yeah, I don't know. Waka, that's your full thing, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's basically it.
So wait, how is it worse than a gacha?
Yeah, we need to talk about
Yeah,
that.
well,
Yeah.
that needs to be fleshed out.
Okay, for me, right?
We'll let you walk it back even if you want.
Okay, no, it's not even walk it back. No, I know that. For most
We're gonna
gacha
defend
games,
it. Okay.
free to play, I'm an all free to play gamer. So for the most part, I'm down to spend like $100 on like, oh, I got this birthday thing. I know that for most games, I can spend $100. I can certainly get that character that I want. But I have and it's like, it's all that power fantasy and all that stuff. We look at Ahri. Like, actually, even the guy said before, you only play her like if you're an Ahri player or you actually get mid that game, right? There's basically, it's just like, one, it's a worst ultimate, and it's just overpriced based to anything else. And I feel that it's like way too past.
So
Like,
sorry, is your
levels
argument
of-
like most gacha games, not TFT, but most gacha games sell power with the gacha, and so you're suggesting that at least whenever you're doing the gacha stuff, you're getting some power? Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, I was just making a correlation. It's like Ahri is it's just a really cool skin, and it's just a really tainting of it because it's just a cool skin.
Well, what does that have to do with gacha?
Yeah.
No, it's a correlation. Like, we hear gacha as a very negative term, right?
Yeah.
So when we have this negative term, I was just making a very contrast statement. It's worse than gacha.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So you're saying overall, the fact that this is so expensive and so ridiculous means that in your mind, you're not talking about the way that it's being deployed. You're just saying like you would rather have like some shitty gacha system in the game than have it be a point where like people have to spend $500 so they get this skin.
Basically, and also it was advertised to have the wolves and that cool cinematic. The base 50, you don't get the wolves. You just get like a brown tail.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I'm not surprised that they put the most expensive version of the skin in the cinematic. That seems like it would make sense, right?
That seems strategic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just come out and say that it's nowhere near as bad as gacha? Like gacha is completely predatory in the way that it's let's just use the TFT as example. If you want this specific skin, your only purpose is to get. In my case, it was like a Gwen skin. It's like if you want this Gwen skin, you must pay in, and you're not guaranteed to get it until like maybe 20 or so tries, and that's with them putting a limiter themselves. Otherwise, you're just spending money, praying to God. It's gambling. At least in this case, you have a solidified price point, which I fucking despise, by the way. But at least it's a solidified price point that's not luring in people who are just like throwing money into a bucket. Especially if you're a child, you're just chucking in your grandpappy's trust fund, just like praying to God that you're going to be able to get something out of it.
We just all have
like
grandpappy's trust funds to fall back on, Raz?
I have not me.
I'm not old enough. I still got mom. I gotta steal mom's credit card for this one. You know?
My grandpappy is in some village in Ethiopia, so I'm just throwing out like a random example.
Yeah. I'm just teasing. Yeah, I think for what Raz said, I think that the dopamine loop that gacha intentionally exploits, and the fact that it hasn't found regulation yet in at least the US, is the reason why I would say that I at least appreciate that Riot has at least it's a very high, but they have a solid price point. So that you're not just chasing that, like, ooh, I might get the Ahri skin at like $50.
I would rather have this be.
I'm just gonna spin.
I'd rather have this be a $500 skin than a gacha skin that you can get at $300. Like, I actually think it's nicer.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would agree.
So actually, it's funny because so many people are up in arms about this situation for a variety of things. But it's like, I don't know, guys. The TFT situation is, I feel like, a little worse.
Yeah.
It's just people.
I appreciate the
don't
clickbait though, by like throwing out gacha games and being like, it's worse than this.
Can I add? Well, we correlate to TFT gacha scale. TFT gacha scale, I already despise it. The only gacha like skins that are good are like Azure Lane. Everything else is like, eh. So,
I like the Nikkei skins. You see that new crown skin?
But I mean, I'm just telling you, this is like, that's like borderline. You know, we're going over.
All right. Well, okay. We're now talking about other games, other gacha games, which doesn't make sense. Let's get back to this.
I'm just saying.
So you're upset about the $500 thing. What you're upset? Okay. Why do you not like this? Like, you talked about how you think it's worse than a gacha, but like, really, we're trying. I really thought that after today, where I looked at Reddit and all of the front page was everybody pissing on this thing, that it would not be so hard to find somebody who could just come on the show and talk about how they don't like it. So please give me your reasons for not liking it.
So, one, it's if we're just talking about the 500 version, right? For $500, I could buy. It's just price evaluation. I can buy other things with it. Now, even if I wanted to make
PS5,
like really
that's the number a lot of people, or the item a lot of people use. They say it's, you can go buy a PS5.
Yeah, it's, to me, that exclusivity really loses its brandish value when I look at the Hall of Legends as a whole. It's super tarnished because we put this celebration up and we price gouge it. We advertise it in a nice way. We're like, oh, the fox, the tails, and oh, it's like this, this really exclusive thing, and we put that huge little sticker on it, and it's like, yeah, this is a scam, and you see it everywhere. It's the backlash. And you're just like,
okay, but how is it? Okay, this is. I do want to get into this. Yeah. How is it a scam?
Well,
how's it a scam?
How is it a scam?
Yes.
I just the $50 version, right? The $50 version, you get bad LeBlanc animations, then the 3 other trash SKT skins that are like cool, I guess. And then you have the really dumbed down ultimate skin that's worse than Seraphine or Samira.
Okay. So have they misled you in purchasing it?
Not misled me. It's that.
So then how is it a scam?
When I look at the Ahri, skin, the $50 one, it's significantly worse than what happened with Samira and Seraphine with their ultimate skins. It just doesn't, it doesn't make sense for me to buy this even dumbed down version when I correlate to any other ultimate skin that's on the market for significantly better price.
I'll tell you. So like a month ago, I went into the Adidas store near me, and I saw that they had Ultra Boosts, and they were $195, and previously I'd bought Ultra Boosts for like $120, and I felt like it didn't make sense for me. I wouldn't say that meant that like I was getting scammed by Adidas on these Ultra
Travis,
Boosts. You know, like it just
there might be a difference between like a $20 skin and a 500. I'm just putting that out there. So he's probably like just talking about the money value of it. That's just where he's going to it, which I think is meaningful.
Okay, yeah.
What is the price point? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say like, look, if part of the reason why I get frustrated is because like I think it is hard for Riot to take people seriously when they hear folks being like, you're price gouging us on this, or it's a scam or whatever, when like, or it's like worse than gotcha, when I don't think that is like reasonable or true. You know, like I just don't think that like Riot is committing some sort of scam. They're not telling you that you're gonna get the ultimate skin, and then when you spend the $50 you buy it, and they're like, okay, we said you'd get it, but you have to give us another $450 to get it. Like, and so I just want to be clear about what's happening here, right? Which is like, it's just an overpriced skin. They're charging too much for a skin, and a lot of people don't want to pay that price, and they want the skin. Like that is like, unless I'm missing something, like that is the full narrative here.
Yeah, you're right. I did use scam as this like all-encompassing word. I know that like under dictionary, yeah, it makes total sense. This isn't a scam. It's just like an absolute thing. But you feel like, damn, I'm getting really scammed if I pay for this. It's like, it's the feeling. It's not the legal like buy lower like lawyer book levels of like, this is a scam.
You feel like it's a
ripoff. It's more like it's a ripoff. Yeah.
And like the person who did get scammed is Ixbix, who just gifted 100 subs on the channel and spent the $500 that they could have spent on this Ahri skin on gifting me subs. And ironically, I'm getting scammed by Twitch because I'm not going to get nearly a lot of that. The vast majority of I'll get majority.
You're getting more than FAKER's going to get from his skin.
Yeah,
I'm getting a better cut than FAKER's getting, but it still won't be enough to buy the Ahri skin. Even though
gotta double it,
they said 100 subs in. So it's
subs are a month. Ahri skins forever. We aren't taking that into account.
Ooh, so has anybody read the Riot?
Though?
Yeah, has anybody read the Riot TOS and see if you actually own the skin, or if it's like the lease thing, like so many?
Of course, it's a lease thing. Okay,
but even if we do talk about that, do we think that League of Legends is, like have server time past its like expiration date?
League 2, baby, it's carrying over.
What are we getting crew 2'd over here? I do think though that even if the definition of scam is not correctly applied, this gets back to what I was saying earlier, which is I think beyond lost sales or whether or not they monetize correctly or not, there is probably a very large percentage of the community that has had their perception of Riot changed somewhat as a product of their pricing of the skin, which is problematic for the brand. Okay, yeah.
Kelby, do me a favor here.
Yeah.
I need you to help the caller here. I need you to, because you and I were talking earlier in our group chat. You really thought this was not great. Please help us. You be the ultimate and antithetical person on this. Like, why is it not great? Obviously, you saying it's got tarnished, and you're just saying that's because people are going to perceive Riot as greedy. Are there other things? Like, what's wrong here with this?
I feel like I'm going to kind of just summarize what I said earlier. I do think that Riot probably internally had a ton of internal discussion around this. Is not news to them that like they're seeing the backlash around the price point of the skin. Like I'm sure they anticipated to a certain degree a fair amount of pushback, but ultimately decided based on modeling or whatever internally that like, hey, this is the best way to generate the most revenue off this product. What maybe wasn't accounted for appropriately, and maybe it was, is just like the degree of the pushback and the uniformity of the sentiment, which we've seen, can be damaging for the brand and in turn have people perceive Riot differently. Whereas I feel like Riot historically has not been viewed in the same light as And I'm not saying that I necessarily see them this way, because they may be sponsoring an event that we're doing this weekend. But some other game publishers and developers in the space, like an Electronic Arts, Ubisoft got a lot of pushback when they introduced subscriptions into Rainbow Six Siege this last week, and they're doing a subscriber model moving forward. I think Riot has avoided a lot of that perception, but now when you do behaviors like this, people start to say, and I see it in Reddit comments and on tweets and stuff like that, oh, they're greedy just like everybody else. And then when you have things that maybe don't even overstep that much, people latch onto the sentiment like, oh, this is a change in pattern behavior for Riot. This is the kind of company that they are. And then you have people who are have a smaller propensity to buy and support the company. And in the long term, it's not great for your brand, and can cost you money down the road, obviously.
Yeah.
And also it's really sad, I'm sure, internally for all the people in the company who worked on this skin, worked on this announcement, and they're like, damn, all of this hard work, all this thing I'm really proud of us having done is just getting shit on.
No, I have heard from at least one
public.
person today at Riot who feels that way. So
yeah, and then that hurts morale internally. They go back, they have conversations, and that bleeds into my desire to. Anyways, there's. I don't need to ramble any further, but there's just a lot of long tail implications when you make a misstep this grand, and it's for what? So you can make an extra 20, 30, 50 million dollars for your billion-dollar revenue a year game. Like,
yeah, I mean, you say it like that. Oh, go ahead, Rez.
Yeah, I think also another problem that I have, this won't be an issue for the next, like, whoever does get inducted later. Unless if it's like maybe Uzi or Mako that like have a pretty fever pitch fandom. But like, you've probably already seen the Faker fans on Twitter or at any of the major events that happen, that like, regardless of what country you're in Europe continent, China, Korea, like there is a fever pitch fandom around this individual player, and by billing it to $600 or $500, I keep saying $600, but by billing it to such a large number, you are just taking advantage of this like fever pitch fandom, where it's like a lot of people just really, really want to be able to support this player in any way, shape, or form. And so like you'll have people who are maybe underage, I'm assuming for sure underage, that will be like, I feel like I need to show my support for Faker in some way, and this skin is the way to do it. So that's my big concern of just throwing the $600, because they know, I keep doing it, this large number of money monetarily, because they know people will pay for it. So that's my problem with it. If we're saying this constantly, but if it just goes down to like 100 or something that's far more accessible to the community, it's not a big problem at all. And they might be making more because far more people are willing to pay for it.
Yeah. I imagine they modeled it out to figure out like this is how they got here. Not to say their model couldn't be wrong, but I assume.
And maybe to Riot's credit, they modeled an even higher price point and pulled back to 500 because, like, damn, the sentiment will be even worse if we went for true economic efficiency here. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So well,
$700.
Oh, good.
On top of all this, though. Oh, go caller, go.
Oh no, I was just like gonna make a comment. It's like, yeah, around like $700, $800, you know.
Yeah.
True optimization.
I mean, some people in the Dota like compendium spend tens of thousands of dollars pumping into that. Now, I'm not saying for like an individual cosmetic you would price that much, but like who knows what their modeling suggested internally for the ideal value extraction here.
I agree with Raz here, where it's like, and I know some people in chat are saying it, where I can see like with the price being so big, it takes away from the fact we're celebrating a player. Like people do want to support the player, and when the price is that big, the conversation isn't about like, wow, look at what Faker's getting. It's about like, wow, this isn't accessible for me, and that sucks. I mean, I also want to bounce off what Kelby was talking about with like the announcement itself. Look, I fully agree. Like Riot they're smart enough to know, like, all right, this price point is going to be a hot topic, right? That for me makes it even more puzzling. Like, release a cinematic that you're going to include in the battle pass. Like, release more of what's actually going to be included. Like, what do we get if we buy this? Like, it's saying that we're going to highlight career highlights. Release one of those on the website. Like, make it look cool. Like, actually put out the kitchen sink. Like, release how much Faker is going to get. Give all the info possible to make sure that people actually want to buy this. Whereas, like, the announcement, it's like, what are the unique things that I see in here? Oh, I can just get the pass for free if I buy the big one. Oh my God, like, if I kill a turret, the signature shows up. That's like the one unique thing I saw. I can't even see the signature move, like, unless I go to the event trailer. Like, I feel like they made it so inaccessible to actually see what you get to, and that's also a part of the frustration.
The last thing I want to get to here is kind of a counterpoint, Kelby, to not a counterpoint, but just like an alternative. Because I agree with what you were saying, Cubby, about the, like, they have been very vague about some of the other things that they're doing to celebrate, and I think that they should have just, like, been like, here's everything we're fucking doing, because it, or maybe they felt like they couldn't do that. They needed to, like, drop this $500 thing out there, let everybody get angry, and then come in afterwards, so that truly not everything gets distracted. But I think, Kelby, that, like, one statement that you said, which was, they are sacrificing all of this goodwill, and for what? A little more money? When they're already making a ton of money? I think that, if I had to guess, John Needham, the CEO of Esports, has been, or president, maybe Wayland CEO, whatever. John Needham, the head of Esports at Riot, has been told by Dylan, this is speculation. So, like, last couple of years, we've had Nicolo in as the CEO of Riot Games, and it was like spend. Like, Arcane Season 1's coming out, we're fucking throwing, like, stuff on the side of a skyscraper in different cities and all this stuff. Dylan, who was previously the CFO, like the money guy, comes in and is appointed to the CEO position. We see in very short order. What?
This just tracks. Anyways, go
we
ahead.
see in very short order them shutting down projects, them scaling back existing teams, layoffs that occur, and very clear budget cuts on the esports side. So Riot immediately cuts back a ton. I think that it is, again, speculation, very easy to imagine a world where Dylan brings in John Needham and brings in Andre Von Roon, and who's executive producer of League of Legends, and says, guys, this is the fucking number you need to hit this year in order for for you guys to have been considered doing a good job with your thing. We have to hit this number so that we're losing this less money on League of Legends esports. And if you don't hit that, then, you know, there's going to be repercussions. We'll have to figure it out then. But, like, this is what you're being told to hit. Because Dylan is sitting there being like, we've been losing all this money, so we got to fucking do it. And I think that then they do the back of the paper math. They go backwards. They start, we have to hit this number, so how are we going to get there? And so they plan out, you know, 3 different things. They plan out the Hall of Legends. Okay, we're planning on doing this. How can we make this really great? How can we monetize it? Okay, well, we can't hit it when we were going to sell the skin for like $100 or $200. Fuck, in order to do this, we got to hit this thing at $500. Then they think about, like, the Worlds, what they're going to do at Worlds. I'm sure they're going to have some sort of expensive digital item there. Then maybe they have one other thing that they're going to be doing this year. I don't know. And so I think that's probably more likely what happened, where it wasn't a situation where Riot's like, how can we get some more cash? I think it's more likely that the internal stakeholders at Riot have been given a task to hit a certain number by the end of this year, and this is the way that they have decided that they're going to be able to do it. And, like, Kelby and I have both worked in corporate environments. I think both of us can tell you that, like, this is often the way these things work at these companies, because all of us like to think about it within the global thing of, like, why did Riot do this? But it's not Riot that ever does anything. It is, like, these stakeholders that lead teams within different discrete business units and have goals and revenue models and all these things that they have to hit. And that is how you end up in these, like, bizarre situations where you're just scratching your head being like, why the fuck would they price this thing at $500? And what happened was you missed, like, the 3 weeks of discussion in meeting rooms that led to this decision, you know? So
I think also, Travis, this is emblematic of a trend that we see across the industry as a whole, where people express concern about MBAs starting to have a greater prominence and point of voice and decision making within the game industry as a whole, because I think Steve Jobs had like
the
he
the
has
whole
like
thing about
a
they hire the marketing people to lead instead of the
Right.
engineers or
right.
whatever. Yeah.
If you have a CFO that takes over your company, your company is probably going to follow a more financially rigorous path than if you have a product person take over, than if you have a marketing person take over and stuff like that. So it is certainly speculation, as you said, but it would not surprise me if Riot was making more financially motivated decisions as the product of their former CFO being at the leadership position at the company now.
Yeah.
And having that be the focus instead of all the other things that may come with making decisions based purely on financial projections.
That makes sense, because as a marketing major, when Travis was going through the napkin thing, I just thought that would end up like Faker being connected to a milking machine.
Exactly. All right.
Yeah.
Waka, thanks so much for the call. Sorry, we are way over time. Is there anything you want to shout out here at the end?
To that dev that was really sad that this didn't go so well. Shout out to all the devs that worked on this, even though it feels really bad that it's overpriced, and I'm still angry about it. It is very pretty. I'll give it to them. It's a pretty skin.
Yeah, and I just want to say here at the end that like I don't want to speak for all of us, but I'm just going to do it, and any of these guys can speak up and tell me I'm not representing. I think all of us would probably say, like, if you're angry or upset that this skin is too much money for you, I don't think any of us are saying you're wrong for feeling that way. Like, I think it's perfectly reasonable for people to be frustrated about this this price point. I see some really weird shit where people are like, oh yeah, we should go harass the devs and stuff on Reddit, and that stuff's not like highly upvoted and not getting deleted, and I think that's fucking insane. But like overall, I think, yeah, if you want to be frustrated with the company because they've put out a product that you think is too expensive, that's perfectly within the realm of your reasonable decisions, So, hey, thanks, Waka, for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a good night.
So we have, I have to check in with Raz and Kelby here. So we have 2 calls now that are not Faker related. We're over time. Are you guys good still, or do you need either of you need to peace out?
I'm good.
I'm good. Can I do a quick restroom break?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm going to boil up some water.
Yeah, you guys go do that. I'm going to shout out some subs. Thank you. Well, I'll read this one when Kelby's back because it's related to him. Thank you, Risky Devils, for the 14 months. Oscar Mike for the 2. Sonic 5040 for the 21 months. Bowen for the 1,000 bits. And Ixbix for the 100 gifted subs. That is very generous of you. Thank you so much. Cubby, how you been doing? You're muted, I think. Oh, he's in the other channel. It's just me right now. I'm just hanging out with all of you. Sonic 54. Oh, Sonic X 5040. I see. I'm getting yelled at for saying the wrong name. That is not correct. If you are watching and you are on YouTube, I just want to mention maybe you consider becoming a member. Twitch, I think there's a lot of people who sub, and if you want to become a member, that's a great way to support the channel for YouTube. You'd be representing the YouTube viewers. A while ago, I decided I would co-stream both of these on YouTube and Twitch, and I have decided to do that. And I like streaming to YouTube, but it would be cool if any of you decide to support by becoming a member. We've had 3 memberships come in today on YouTube, and yeah, and if you don't want to, that's completely cool. I know a lot of you probably pay for YouTube Premium, which does support. I'm going to save this last one. I saved it for when Kelby came back. Fenron Jenkins resubbed for 76 months and said,
Damn.
I wish Kelby would look at me the same way he looks at Elspeth von Draken or Lothern Seagard. Okay.
What the hell did you just say?
We got
Kind of incantation.
It's a Warhammer 3 reference.
Okay.
Dirtymike is here. Dirtymike, where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm calling from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Raleigh, North Carolina. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, so my take is that the Dignitas roster moves that happened recently really highlight need for players to self-market themselves and make sure to build their own brand. I know in this past split, I wouldn't necessarily say Jensen played all that much better than Dove. I definitely think it is a bit of an upgrade. And then I think you could argue in the last splits we saw Spica, XU has looked just as promising, if not potentially more so, being a younger player. But if you were to give any team, especially a team that has a small fan base like Dignitas, the option to sign Spica and Jensen on what I'm guessing is a budget, I think you'd be almost crazy not to, just with how many fans that they're likely going to bring to your org, just from their own personal fan bases.
So you feel like part of it is, hey, XU didn't have the brand that some of these other guys had, so it made sense for us to bring them in, even if they were just even in skill.
Yeah, I think it would definitely factored into the decision, just because while I think you could view both of them as upgrades, I don't think the gap is as big as some people make it out to be.
Gotcha.
Okay, I have a question first. How old, like, what do you think is the age difference between Spica and XU?
Yeah, and that's why I said, younger in the fact that XU just hasn't shown
just
as much. Yeah,
Okay,
hasn't shown as much on the LCS stage, yes.
It was 11 months. I'm like, that guy is not old. That's crazy.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, not that Spica is old. We've just seen Spica in the LCS for longer.
No, I'm glad you brought it up. I'm glad Raz brought that up because I've heard so many people be like, "Oh yeah, these fucking old washed veterans" when they're talking about Spica, and it's so funny to me.
Yeah, that's why I had to ask the question, because the amount of comments that I've read saying this guy's washed or he's been in the, I was like, God damn, this guy is still 23 years old and XU is 22. It's not an age thing. It's not an age thing. And the guys put it in the chat that it's like a 1 year thing. It's like less than a year. They're born in the same year, February to December.
Yeah,
Anyways,
experience is a reasonable argument, though, for sure.
Yeah, and I will say a disagreement that I have. Yes, I would agree. It's an upgrade in both positions. It can be said that Spica did not have a good split with FlyQuest, so you can make a take based off that. But yes, I think he's a better player, and I also think that Dove was one of the worst players in the mid laners, I should say, in the LCS last split, whereas Jensen was literally top 3, which is, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you say that they were close?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my problem.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Jensen was third team All Pro in the regular season, and had
I mean, I know that they weren't close. That's me. That's bad.
Yeah, the Dove was a bit of a stretch.
Fair enough.
That's okay.
You owned it up.
I think the funniest thing for me about this was, like, if I had to look at Dignitas as a team this past split, they actually had good early games, and they had a lot of direction of, like, hey, we're going to play through our bot lane and try and attack that. And for me, XU had good game plans. Like, when Dignitas was losing games, it was because XU was almost trying to make too many plays, which, I mean, I appreciate from that role and as a rookie. But also, a lot of those came from being disconnected with the solo laners. For me, swapping in Licorice plus Jensen would have instantly patched up the biggest issue that I feel like XU had moving forward. And then they just decided to swap him too, which is kind of feels bad, especially when you take into account that Dignitas had XU for multiple years. He was, like, pitched to kind of be like, hey, I know that Challenger is, we're not going to continue our team. We're going to keep you as a sub, and we're going to, like, have you, like, kind of build around you moving forward. And then the economy keeps on going down in terms of player salaries. One split happens, and then it's just like, all right, boom, we're just gonna go with Spica, and that's it.
Kelby, what if I not that I've heard this, but, like, what if you learned that, like, they couldn't have gotten Jensen unless they also got Spica?
I'd probably make the move for Jensen plus Spica.
Yeah, because I'm not saying, and I'm not trying to. Again, I did not hear that. It's just, like, I bring it up only because this happens so frequently, and, like, it's nice of the GMs and the teams to tank for their players, but there's so many times where a player goes, "Oh, fuck that rookie." Like I've heard from
like,
so many
if that's
people
the
that the
case,
players
though,
themselves are oftentimes the worst enemy of rookies, you know.
If that's the case, though, like, I mean, the biggest issue, like, I mean, Bakery should sack the fuck up then. Like, if XU truly was his golden child, then, like, he's got to be like, no, trust me. Like, here's the comms. Here's this guy's work ethic. Like, we're going to go for this, you know? Like, that's also on the GM. And, like, from everything, like, XU's tweet, the fact that he was given very short notice and them going against everything else that he was told.
Yes.
Like, no one, I don't think anyone's actually super mad about the move. Because, I mean, like, at worst, I would argue that it's a side grade. And I think the biggest thing with, like, where the meta is shaping up to be, I think Speak is much better on AP champs than XU. I actually feel like Lilia, Nidalee, like, potentially being meta, like, could be a really nice comfort zone for Speaka, where I thought his best champs when he was doing really well with TSM were, like, the Diana Lilias, right? And, like, that niche that he was really fitting in. But it just sucks for me that, like, Dignitas had so much faith in this player, and they made the changes around him that I feel like would have helped him the most. And they're just like, nope, see ya, goodbye. Like, that's it. And I feel like no one has the issue with, like, the change itself. It's just how it was handled.
Especially in this environment where there's literally, like, NACL is not it. There are 2 teams that are LCS affiliates where I imagine they make enough to get by, and they're maybe in-house. Actually, that's a question for you. Our FlyQuest Academy, no, neither of them are in-house.
No,
Only
Team
Quad was
Liquid.
in-house.
I thought Team Liquid was, right? Are they not?
Only Roamer was in-house.
Only Roamer was. So, like, even that, like, NACL is not a viable. You're not stopping your whole life down to do this unless if you're really, really, really fucking committed. So you only have 8 spots, and if you're losing that Dignitas spot, then you would really want extra time. So the fact that they fucked them this late in this environment is fucking sad. It really is. Because now he's going back to, I'm assuming, collegiate.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, if you're going into collegiate, you're pretty much like, at that point, you should take the salute.
I mean,
so I want to give you guys
right.
both. I want to give you all the updated timelines here, and Kelby as well, because I don't think Kelby. I know Kelby, you did some. We talked about this a bit beforehand, but you might not have seen the interview I did. So, the timeline, as I understand it, is. Hang on, I've got notes. Okay, so Sven got reported on May 8th. My understanding is that this was around the time that Spica and his agent ended up talking to Dignitas, and Dig declined at the time and told. This is like when they told XU. Some of this you can find out in the XU interview that I did. Some of it is like other stuff that I've heard. What happened that was interesting was that on May 14th, Spica quietly got kicked from FlyQuest, or maybe his contract ended or whatever. I don't know. But like he was no longer at FlyQuest, which is where he was as a content creator previously. So Spica had been hanging out as a content creator there. I think because of that, that is when Spica and Dignitas start talking again, because now Spica doesn't have a job, content creator, pro player, whatever. And then suddenly Dignitas and Spica are able to find an arrangement that I think was not available to them previously. My understanding was that, or in that interview with XU, this is XU's tweet initially, I'm going to say it was because, it's hard to convey all this in a tweet, said like, 2 weeks ago they told me that I had a job with them and everything was going to be fine. I just found out that I didn't. What XU says in the interview with me is that like around the time Spica becomes no longer at FlyQuest, he gets told by Dignitas, oh, never mind. We did tell you that we were sticking with you, but now we are talking to Spica. And so there was like, it basically went like 1 week, hey, XU, we are sticking with you. 1 week later, wait, never mind. We're talking to Spica. 1 week later, oh, never mind. We're going with Spica. Sorry. So like, again, this is not me being a Dig apologist or anything like that, but I do want to give you guys all the facts here because I think it can feel like they were like, yeah, XU, we're fine. And then 2 weeks later, you just hear he got wrecked. But like, it sounds like there were all these different moving things in that made it more complicated.
And was he just cut?
That's my question.
He was no longer. I don't believe he voluntarily left FlyQuest.
No, I'm sorry.
No,
about
we're talking
XU.
about XU.
Yeah.
Oh, you're saying XU? Or are you saying
was he cut?
He was cut when Spica joined up. Yes.
Okay.
Because I know this is not like also a confirmed story about the whole Thanatos thing. It's not, but pretty sure Thanos is. Wait, I'm pretty sure that announcement came out. Either way,
Yeah.
like Fudge is still, I'm pretty sure, with with C9.
Oh, yeah. Jack is tweeting about his Korea solo queue adventures. He hit top 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have loved if Dignitas had decided to make this decision to just keep him on as 6th man.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would have just been great. They had him as a 6th man prior. I guess he was a part of the coaching staff or something, just to like work behind the team. The fact that he was just completely let go this late, I'm like, really? That's my problem.
That is. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go, Kelby.
I was going to say that's the part of this that is tough for me, which is like with the narrative, and I'm less familiar, but I'm taking your guys' word for it. With the narrative that you're prescribing around Dignitas and this player, I don't know what sort of term length that they signed with Spica, but it would feel silly with all of this investment to then cut this player, risk losing them when you really maybe are just looking at a single split with Spica, and then you could go back to this player if things didn't work out or Spica doesn't play well. He comes off the bench and he's starting, but I can't imagine, especially with the way that XU described it, that like he was on a really high paying contract. So because he's still on that his agreement he signed was 2.5 years ago, right? 3-year agreement. So damn, like I know that LCS isn't making a ton of money and the salaries aren't crazy high, but it seems like a lot of investment lost for a one split gamble.
Well, you see, Kelby, this would be a great situation if only Dignitas had a secondary team where they might be able to have XU stay in the organization.
Yeah. That's not an argument
stay warm
that you're
for
gonna
another
be able to
split.
make. So
yeah, if
everybody
only.
decide to jettison NACL, I'm sorry, dude.
Yeah, but
And Kami is saying that they teams do need to have a sixth player. I don't know who that player would be. Or
right now they have I don't see us. Oh wait, no, they have Rich is listed as their 6th player. So they kept Rich on, it looks like, instead of jettisoning him. To use the word of the day.
That's crazy because they made that call on Licorice a long time ago.
He had to keep the hot scout, man. That golden child won.
Yeah, I mean, also Rich. I don't know. Maybe it's a tough situation because if you get rid of Rich, then you're probably sending him back to Korea because I don't think he's a resident, right? So he's a non-resident.
Bakery just said in chat, we will not be keeping Rich, just contract stuff. As of today, XU is still on Dig.
Okay.
Well,
so he didn't get cut.
I do see XU is still on Dig, right, as of today. But that's because Spica has not been added into the contract database. So, like, I'm not trying to start shit with Bakery right now in chat. But, like, as of today, XU is still on. I could confirm that by looking at this contract database. But Spica's not. So, like, while that's true, as of today, it might not be. By the way, Bakery is the GM of Dignitas for just so that people have context. And if anybody wants to, jeer at him in the Twitch chat, I know that's what you guys
if
are
XU is in fact not cut, then I don't have any grievances.
I mean, I have heard XU is going to go play for like he says in the interview, he's going to go play for an academy team or not academy team, a challenger team, whatever the fuck they call it now.
Those rosters are like still being settled, and so his chances of finding a spot there are pretty good. But he can also
he's found a spot.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah,
nice.
So I am curious if they are going to keep him or not.
Yeah, and if he's still on a Dig contract, which I'm assuming would pay better than an NACL contract.
Bakery hasn't clarified if XU's staying as a 6th member or not, since he said that as of today XU's still on Dig. So we don't know. Okay, whatever.
Okay.
I don't know. I do think it's very unfortunate. I think the timelines are weird. I think that we haven't officially decided what we will do with XU, says Bakery. Okay, so it's still up in the air in terms of if he could retain. Well, Bakery.
Chat, this is your opportunity to convince him.
Yeah, good for you, Bakery. We've got a panel of 4 people who all think that if Rich is leaving as the 6th player, that maybe XU should stay on as the 6th player. And boy, would that actually help with some of the heat you guys are taking. So we're here to assist you.
He's a great personality
League,
too.
To the rescue.
Some of the best things I loved about XU is not just like how I felt like he's improved and grown as a jungler, but also like if we were to have an interview, he is the best spokesperson for that team. He is such a great
and he loaned me
individual.
his Lambo the other day, which I thought was really nice. Yeah,
true. That's
maybe
great
we
too.
could get XU
Great
and
streaming
Bakery
personality.
on right now, and they could talk about the pros and cons, and then we'll just have chat vote.
Yeah. And Kelby, as an uncertified agent, can share his opinion on contract stuff. You know?
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Caller, Dirtymike, what do you make of all this stuff?
Yeah, no, I think a lot of that makes sense. And yeah, I think the main one is mostly grievances XU. But all that to say, I am excited for the new Dig roster. I know I do fall into the category. I am fans of all the players they have signed, so I am excited to see what this team does. Most of them just getting their shot back in the LCS.
Yep. That is
legitimately exciting team.
Yep. Thank you, Dirtymike, for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Yep. Thanks.
God, I don't know where one more caller to go. Thank you to
while we're pulling the next caller. I don't get what happened. Actually, never mind. I'm not going to open this up.
No, let's open the box. We need to
We're only 2.5 hours into the show, Kelby. Go ahead. Started a whole new thing.
What's up, Kelby?
I was going to say I don't, and I obviously haven't spoken to Alan about this. The last time I spoke to Alan was before he went to Korea.
Who is Alan for the people who don't know?
Alan is Busio.
Okay.
I don't understand what happened with Jensen. I need to catch up there.
True.
I need to talk to my boy.
Well, I have an inspired interview I could show you that might help you answer.
Dude, okay, but never mind. I'm actually gonna get in trouble if I talk about the inspired interview. So I'm gonna stay away from that one. But it's like, man, never mind. I'm gonna shut up.
Box closed.
I'm so confused. I don't understand.
All right.
That's hilarious.
Off Cubby goes to grab our last caller. Shout out to Honey for the 5 gifted subs.
Is, like, when Inspired was on Evil Geniuses, and he would do this to JoJo, I swear to God, like, every time he was in the interview. He would just, like, criticize JoJo publicly. I was like, if JoJo had a problem with it, this would be an issue. I've never seen a player basically do this on such to such a public degree. And then now it finally happened, but it was with Jensen. I was like, all right, shit.
Yeah, but he loves JoJo.
I mean, it's just who he is.
I'm super biased on all of this stuff because I lived with and managed Double Lift for years. So, like, I have a very different perspective on this than a lot of the public sentiment. But before reading the Reddit thread, I went and watched the interview that Inspired got so criticized for. And then I went and read the Reddit thread. And I had a reaction, and then I messaged some people about it and shared my sentiment, and they agreed. And it's just like,
I mean, Core came on Hotline League and said that, and basically was like, "Oh yeah, that was really fucked up. I would hate if I had a teammate that said something like that." So it's tough, Kelby, because I get what you mean, because I do think EU players...
I didn't say anything.
Yeah,
I said I had a reaction.
Yeah,
okay?
Sure.
No, I completely agree with you, Kelby, on what statement you had just made.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think if you have opinions about the statement Kelby just made, you guys should all voice them to him on Twitter. Quickly, by the way, thank you for Edgar for the 50 MX over on YouTube. I assume that's Mexican dollars. I don't know what that is, but appreciate it. Aaron Rodriguez, thank you for the membership. I really, I was a big Olivia Munn fan, so it's unfortunate. And then Sonic X 5040, thank you as well. All right, we got our last caller of the night, which is John Jr. 121. Where are you calling from?
What's up, everybody? John calling from Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. What do you want to talk about on the show?
John?
Yeah, sure. So it's probably not a take, more so a question for the group. But my question is, do you all ever see a scenario where the pro community decides to GA certain champs or strategies When I say GA, I'm referring to the term gentleman's agreement, which is basically any like scenario where the players as a community come together and decide to ban maybe a certain, I don't know, weapon or character or setting or something like that. Even though the official developer or the sanctioning body of that tournament has not done that officially, it's something that's common in like Call of Duty. They'll ban certain guns, or like the Smash community, they'll limit the competition to a certain set of stages. I'm wondering if you all ever see a scenario where something like that happens in the league community.
So let me tell you about the last time two teams had
I was about to say
a GA. The last time two people had a GA, they was at MLG in 2013. And I believe it was Dignitas and Curse.
Yeah.
I think it was Dignitas and Curse.
It was.
And these two teams made an agreement where they would, all gentlemen's agreement, just go, and it was done at a Jimmy John's, I believe, is where this GA took place. And they all agreed that, hey, all 5 of our members and all 5 of your members will all go only to mid lane in Summoner's Rift, and we will play the game exclusively through the middle lane and will not do anything else.
Was that the Heimer game?
I don't know what.
Was it Heimer? I don't remember the picks. Anyway, this was later. This was decided. Like the players got in very big trouble because this was considered collusion, and essentially like match fixing in some sense. And they were all
Chat
told
was casting
never to do that again. And I think they got in some like light slaps on the wrist. I don't actually think that they got any really big deal, but it's great because I'm pretty sure that was also the last time. I'm pretty sure it was the last time League of Legends was ever at MLG, and the MLG famous, by the way. Whenever everybody talks about how they really wish that third-party organizers could be in charge of the League of Legends ecosystem, I'll always remember Sundance, who was the CEO and one of the founders of MLG, saying like, hey, I really think that League of Legends fans should get used to Dominion because that's actually a really good game mode and it's much better as an esport, and we'll probably do that in the future. Anyway, all to say, John, I don't think that this would happen because I don't think Riot would ever be cool with it.
This game was 80-63 at the 30-minute mark. What a banger.
I'm curious if the caller thinks that there's a scenario where you've seen that it would be needed or that teams would want to do it.
Oh, they were also going to split the prize pool. That's an important part too.
That,
yeah, sorry.
Because what I'll say is, so I just a little context. Like I watched like the pro scene like years ago, and I kind of just got back into it recently, like during MSI. So I was watching it a lot, and there was a period during MSI where Kisante, like whatever team had picked him, had won like 10 straight games. And I remember I was watching that, and I was like, all right, like somebody's got to do something like about this character, right? And I know that later on in the tournament, they started picking stuff like Vayne into him and like Camille and Twisted Fate and stuff and seeing some success there. So maybe it's not, that might not be the best example of it. But I do feel like, maybe there's scenarios or characters. I'm thinking about like Yuumi a couple seasons ago where it just felt like so overwhelming that it was like disrupting the competitive integrity of the game almost.
But that's what bans are for.
And yeah, and also here's the thing: at the end of the day, it's just straight up competition. And so, probably the best examples would be, I remember when you can hold the bot lane wave before it got to the turret, and so you can basically force a specific lane state.
And there would be,
yeah, exactly, that was banned.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, teams, if it's not banned, will do it because they want a higher chance of winning. And so like a great example to your like Cassante or Yumi's like the weirdest pick because like even when it's broken, there are teams that just don't want to play it, don't want to practice it, and they'll leave it open in scrims until you play against a team that just decides they want to be the Yuumi team, and then suddenly they just drop out a draft and then instant ban it. You're like, okay, so like we're not taking this seriously. But at the end, like you're not gonna have a whole handshake within the competitive community about certain strategies or champions because there are going to be teams that think, hey, this is our best chance of winning. We will use it. We don't give a fuck about what other teams think is, quote unquote, fair and unfair. So
I would also say, if I could provide an example from Dota, because this is a perfect opportunity for me to talk about Dota. I think in MOBAs in particular, that exact dynamic can actually bleed into the meta of like an event or strategy. I know at TI5, when EG was facing CDEC in the grand finals, Leshrac was a mid lane hero that was like insta-ban in every draft. But EG identified that their mid laner actually didn't play Leshrac. So both teams were just banning Lesh, and then EG stopped banning Lesh, and Shiki had to pick it. And they went on to win the grand finals as a result in the tournament because of it. So I think that GA prohibits interesting storylines like that to develop, or like, what do you mean their mid laner doesn't play the most OP champ in the meta right now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, this does exist like behind the scenes. Like the scrim server that was popular in NA that I was a part of, it was like a lot of challengers and like top of tier 3 players and some LCS players as well. Like Skarner was global banned in his state because that champion was just ridiculous, right? So this does happen, but that's behind the scenes, like not in the game. Like those teams were still getting in Skarner games. They were just fine. Like not, it wasn't happening in that scrim server, right? I know that like you come from COD, right, Caller? So like, can you give some examples of like where this is like really frequent in COD, or like how they use it?
Yeah. So like for example, I can't even remember which Call of Duty game it was, but one of the Call of Duty games, the pro circuit that year, they banned like a specific gun. They said like, no one can use AK-47. Like all the players agreed it was, kind of just like, I guess, unfun to play and also play against. So they all just kind of came together and agreed to do that. And so I guess, maybe it comes down to a difference in cultures in the games. Like, I guess like Raz was saying, some teams are like, this is good. We don't care. If you don't like it, we're going to play it. And maybe it's just a different kind of culture across the different games and the players that make up the pro community or something like that.
There's no mechanic.
Go Kelby.
I was just gonna say there's no mechanic in COD for banning guns, so that's like a necessity of a lack of a product feature. Whereas in like League, there's one map, so it's not like banning maps. You do have champion bans.
They should ban Summoner Shrift.
And then like, yeah, maybe you'd be like, oh, we're gonna ban sums, or we're gonna ban the strats thing. I think is like unhinged. You're like, hey, we're not proxying tier 2 turret, okay? Like that's not allowed. Nobody can do that.
No level 1 invades, everybody.
I really struggle to find a scenario where people would be like,
oh,
sorry, go ahead.
I got one.
Don't do that.
Okay.
Niles, he dance party with every top laner in Challengers. That was every regular season game. They just had a dance off up top. That's a gentleman's agreement right there. You don't touch each other level 1. Easy.
That is the dumbest gentleman's agreement, but I appreciate it because I appreciate it.
We zoomed in every game, man. It was ridiculous.
APA has a gentleman's agreement where he says something and then they mute him. I think that's a pretty good gentleman's agreement.
Damn, I was thinking about something. But yeah, it's just not gonna happen. Yeah, I just don't see a world for it. Just based off the competitive nature of teams at all.
Yeah, I think also people are not like connected, and like I feel like it happens in these other esports because the esports scenes are smaller and it's like much more old school, and it's easy for them to be like, yo bro, you won't do this if I don't do this, right bro? And they're like, yeah. Here you like, it would have to feel like a collusion situation where like there's a Slack channel somewhere where all the GMs are hanging out and they're like, guys, we should have a discussion about whether or not you like. I think it's just a different not to say I know how it goes in other scenes, but I feel like the sense I get is that in other scenes it is much more, I guess, the way that it would be at like a friendlies or something,
Also, 3-month patch cycle for COD, like those patches are bad. So like they are so disparate, like compared to League, where the game is pretty constantly patched. Where like people can live with it being a problem in comp for a few weeks. Or in the case of like live patch now for LCS, right?
Yeah. It's just an example of how.
Are we using League as a?
Just an example of how Riot is a superior publisher and developer to all these other studios that Kelby thinks they are the same as.
Especially the skins
champion
they found.
diversity in comp for League of Legends is amazing.
I mean, I remember when during Worlds, the games had to be shut down and played off stream because people were hacking the game. I remember when that happened in League of Legends. Anyway, Raz.
Oh, we're talking about Apex. Gotcha.
What were you gonna say, Raz?
I will say the concept of the game getting patched every 2 weeks in League. The dangerous thing, to the point that you'd made, Kelby, about like, oh, behind the scenes, people aren't picking Skarner as much. There's always this feeling whenever a champion is absurdly busted that surely Riot will nerf it out. And in 2016, it was Rise, and then people realized, no, Rise is going to be broken for a while because they're, for whatever reason, they have a different viewpoint of what broken means. It's like, oh, no, we actually have to practice it. It's like you can't even, within practice, in my opinion, decide not to play something because you think that it's not going to be pickable. I remember the story, I forget it was like 2020 or 2021 about like internally TSM was talking about Thresh, like, oh, like I don't have to learn this because it's going to get nerfed at some point. It's like, no, you have no idea what Riot thinks of your champion. Like maybe they nerf it slightly, but it's still going to be busted. You should still play it. You should still learn it.
Just a slight correction here. Raz was saying it was 2016 that we saw Rise at Worlds, but it was actually 2018 that it was the Worlds anthem. It was performed by the Glitch Mob, Mako, and the World Alive.
True.
Wait, is Riot really balancing the game every 2 weeks with patches?
Yes. I love you. Yeah. This is why I love having Kelby on the show. He's so representative of the average League of Legends fan.
Why are they balancing the game that frequently?
I agree. Thank you.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
6 week patch cycles, please.
I just like there is no time for a meta to develop and evolve when you have patch cycles that are that short. That's so. Anyways,
that's why I love Worlds. 6 weeks patch.
Okay, that's
so
that's
unhinged.
Too much. But also, yeah.
What? It's too.
No.
Well, 6 weeks. Perfect. But my problem with. Okay, we can have that conversation later. Travis is not having it.
No, I'm fine. Whatever. I'm just chilling. You guys are here. I'm just racking up. Oh, nobody's subbing right now. But if people keep subbing, you guys can have the conversation. I'll just chill.
Okay. Oh, perfect. The problem with 2 week patches, at least the way they do it, because some of these patches are pretty useless, and other patches are like wide-ranging patches where it's like, yeah, we're nerfing like Fizz, and then we're also nerfing the runes that help Fizz. You're like, well, you don't actually know what the Fizz nerf in isolation would do, so maybe you're just way over nerfing the fuck out of this champion. So like, if they give it more time, I agree. For the length, like that full length of Worlds, MSI is a lot shorter, but 1 month, I don't know. I still like the fact that it's pretty frequent, but not. I would hate the fact that it's like 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, every other week, like a lot of these patches are pretty small, though, right? Like that's what you were saying, Raz.
It depends. If it's a small patch, then I like that being maybe 3 or 4 weeks. I would appreciate that. But recently we've been getting some whoppers, so that's another issue altogether.
Kelby.
I wonder what has led Riot, because you're generating more work for yourself, right? I wonder what led Riot to the decision that they should patch the game that frequently.
Engagement, baby.
They're player first,
I guess.
And players get angry about champions and stuff being OP, so they gotta.
We don't want to see a meta evolve, We don't want to see like range supports come in for MSI that help COG get second. We definitely don't want to see T1 completely swap the meta at this last Worlds halfway through the tournament.
But all this stuff actually happens, though, Cubby. Like what is happening in this 2 week cycle is so different than like what's actually happening at Worlds, right? In some sense, the 2 week cycle doesn't really matter when we get to like a bigger tournament because
it depends on the patch. To Raz's point, and what I like about long patches, which Kelby was getting out with Dota, is that you can find a meta.
Not just Dota, to be clear.
Yes, other games. Yes, but like especially that one. Like I remember Season 8 Worlds when all of a sudden we get to bracket stage and Keen was busting out Victor against Aatrox, or like there was the hack room against Aatrox because Aatrox was a really dominant champion. And these are new picks that get discovered because people get so fucking tired of these champions being OP. And they're forced to actually dig deep and find answers to it. and sometimes it can completely shift the meta. Like Aatrox went from being a top tier pick to garbage when it went from group stage to bracket stage. I mean, the old example of COG at MSI, right? After Mu just kept on forcing range supports, and eventually the entire tournament was playing range supports, and it really helped COG secure that final spot. I think that like when you let metas evolve within the patch, for me, the game can get really interesting in certain patches because like you're just forced to deal with the rules, and you don't have it where it's like, all right, guys, this is bullshit for 2-3 weeks. It's going to get nerfed in the next patch, so we're just going to ban it out, not have to learn it, and then we move on from there.
By the way,
Kelby,
Kelby,
if you really learn to play against it, it's good.
I think it is true that League has been patched 2 years forever, like, or 2 weeks forever, like all these years.
Yeah,
because
it has.
champions used to
When you say
release
forever.
Champions used to release every 2 weeks.
Yes, but in those instances, those were tournaments where the patch, we stayed on the same patch for longer, and people figured things out and actually evolved within the patch.
But we're just talking
Back
about,
when I was playing, champions released every 2 weeks.
In the very early days, and then I think they switched to every 4 weeks, but you would still have a patch every 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was crazy.
In season 2, it was every 2 weeks. People are saying in the chat, and I do remember that. Yeah, I mean they would release like 30 champs a year.
Season 2 for sure.
Yeah, 25 champs.
And it is for sure just for player engagement. Like if you're a casual player, then you're always feeling like there's something new to explore within the game. So there's that, but there's also the adverse one, which is if you're a new player and everything changes so fucking frequently that you'll kind of lose grasp on what items to build and what to play.
Flower says, I remember when Garen came out, they actually released a collie with him as a bonus surprise back when she was the queen of side boob.
Nice.
This is a whole different conversation then, but we should get into the topic of did Riot in year 14 or whatever of the game now that we're in, are they now in a problem where they're like, damn, we actually have too many champions in the game. I wish we could go back in time.
That is a problem, yes.
Yes.
I'm sure.
That is an issue.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I think that's why they just ignore some of them, right? Like there are some champions that just sit there and chill.
Also, like there are just some champs like fucking Camille. Like that kit is so bullshit. The champion is always like it's either like the numbers are too bad for it to be slightly good, or it's just going to dominate. Like just given what the champ is, like
or Shaco.
There's so many champs that just have like ridiculous kits that get way overloaded and are like they pretty much force other champs out of the game.
Yeah, my problem a lot of the times is the new champions that take the form of an identity of an old ass champion like Seraphine and Sona. And I remember they were trying to make it seem as though they were just completely different champions.
Put it with more range.
They literally fit the exact same scope within a team composition. So like that can happen where you're suddenly just making. It's like the Simpsons effect. you're touching base on the exact same concepts of episodes you've done in the past. So, yeah.
This is your golden standard, guys.
It literally takes Annie having the ability that does the most damage in the game to actually get fucking played. Like, it's a point and click stun and just an R that's ridiculously like overtuned. That's the only reason this champion like actually is played because the rest of it's just so trash.
I mean, what do they do, Kelby? You think they start deleting champions? Hey,
obviously you can't do that. You fucked yourself at this point because
yes.
Oh, it's so bad.
You have to go the Dota route. You release League 2, and then you just drip out the old champs. You don't release everything at the start. You know, you just drip them out.
That pisses me off with Street Fighter, but I accept it nonetheless.
Yeah.
Yeah. The problem is the backlog for that is like, what? That you have like 100 champ backlog. You never release a new champion again. It's just an old champion that gets re-released.
Sorry that you just spent $500 on this Ahri skin.
Actually, this is a good idea.
Release all 4 versions of Rise. That's what they should do.
Why are we not running Riot, by the way?
Because we don't have MBAs.
True.
Good idea.
Good point. Good point.
Wait, so if we all go back and get MBAs, like, I've been trying to figure out what to do after esports, and so maybe that's... All right. John Jr., thanks for calling in. What have you thought about our wide-ranging conversation here?
God, I don't even know what we were talking about.
I will leave a one, I guess, parting thought is
GAs. We were talking about GAs. Holy shit!
Okay.
Yeah, we started with GAs, and then we kind of been all around the world since then. But I will leave a one final parting thought on the comment about having too many characters. I think in other games like for example, I'm thinking about Smash. They use the concept of like Echo Fighters, which is where you have two characters that are like kind of effectively the same, but maybe their stats are a little bit different, or the timing or their hitboxes are slightly different. And it feels a little bit more. I don't know. I guess like thoughtful than it does for the league. Like Raz said, you have like Sona and then Sona 2.0 with Seraphine, and it doesn't feel like super thoughtful all the time. It's kind of frustrating. My other pet peeve with that is when a character's like basic ability is the same as like another character's like ultimate ability. So for example, I'm thinking about like Xin Zhao ulti, and then like maybe I don't know which key it is, but this Samira thing where she blocks projectiles. Like those are kind of similar. Or I guess same thing with Gwen has something similar to it, and it feels like man, this is like this one character's like best thing he has in his bag, and then some other characters just have it as like their basic abilities or something super similar to it, and I don't know. It kind
Is
of
Windwall
bothers me a
still in
little
the
bit.
game?
So
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't worry, they released a brother to Yasuo, and Yone is an even worse piece.
I
of
know that
shit.
Yone exists, okay?
Fuck that champion.
Wait, caller, can I
God.
ask, what's your favorite champion?
My favorite character is probably Caitlyn. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I played Caitlyn when I like first started when I was like young, or whatever, like a while ago, and then I took a break from the game for a while, and then I came back, and now it's like,
What
damn,
are your
what's
hopes
going
for?
on? It's a lot going on.
What are
So,
your hopes for
but I'm having fun
Caitlyn?
learning it all again and everything. So it's been cool.
What are your hopes for Caitlyn and Vi in Arcane Season 2?
What are you trying
Oh
to say,
God,
Travis?
I honestly think that. So I think I'm a fan of the way they did Caitlyn and Vi. Like I like their characters a lot. My only biggest pet peeve about Arcane is actually neither of those characters. It's Jace. I think they messed up that character so bad. I thought, at least my understanding of Jace was like he was kind of like an asshole, like an arrogant guy, like kind of thinks he knows everything. And then they made him like this super like nice guy or whatever.
I
And
mean, he's
so
kind of still an
He was a bit of a
asshole.
player. He's a bit of a
He
player
gave
in
up
there.
Victor
yeah, I mean
for
that's true.
he gave up
I
Victor
watched
for a
it
hot
with
piece of
some
ass.
family members.
Well,
who
I'm
got
glad
voted
you
in,
brought
and
this
they're
up because I
like,
now think
all
we need to
love
spend
Jace
another
too
30
much.
minutes
That's not
talking
how
about
it
Arcane
goes.
Season 2 and what our hopes
Wait,
are.
He
I-
gave
I
Jace
need to
fan
know if-
service.
I need to know if the caller's going to buy the Ahri skin.
Hell no, I ain't buying that already skin, bro. That's like a card note payment, a nice card note. I'm not buying that.
Thank you so much for the call, John Jr., and we'll catch you next time.
All right, y'all take care. Thank y'all. Peace.
See you, dude.
All right. Well, I have. This has been an interesting experiment. The show went 3 hours instead of its normal 2, but I have not received a single sub in the last hour. And so the lesson here is the show should only ever go 2 hours. And this goes back to what we were talking about. We did the math. We've learned
Travis
the
could
maximum
run
amount
riot
of
for
hours
sure.
the show can be before we lose monetization, much like the scientists at Riot Games who have figured out exactly where to price the Ahri skin. And I just want to show you all, this is how it works in real life. You come up with a product, you figure out the range, the monetization range, and then you build accordingly. So there you go.
What you should have done is say, okay, we've got a guest. Kelby hasn't been on for a very long time. 20 subs to hear Kelby speak. That's it. And he's just going to be there silent.
I think you
until
overestimate
someone
how much
decides
this
to
audience
give
is
some
interested in
subs.
hearing Kelby speak. All right. We got
Oh, gee.
some plugs to go. Kelby, what do you want to shout out here?
I got no shout.
Really? Nothing?
Yeah, no, I got nothing. Shout out to Memorial Day weekend being awesome. Spending time outside. It's great. I was a human this weekend. It was a lot of fun.
Nice. What a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was shout out to the viewers for letting us take a holiday, Monday as a holiday, because it was really nice to experience a 3-day weekend. I don't remember the last time I did that because normally we do the show on Mondays anyway, so that's cool. Raz, what do you want to shout out?
Look, you have $600 in your bank account. Hold off. Don't pay on that skin. All I'm saying, roll Central Kitchen, Doctors Without Borders, Palestinian Red Crescent. If you want to give out to a good cause, could be anything that you want. All right. If you're throwing your money away, do it for a good cause, friends. That's it. That's my shout out.
That reminds me, I just donated
Raz
the
hates
final
Faker.
amount of money from the video I did on the Esports World Cup, and our donation combined with the revenue that the video made and the super chats people sent on that video, plus the money that people donated directly to it, the Amnesty International video, we raised $820 for that, so that's kind of cool.
Good work, Travis.
Kelby, what do you want to shout out?
Forgot to mention this. LPL, June 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Watch. That's about it.
Also, we started a scam train after I made the joke about subs, so we'll see if we can finish level 2. Kelby, what do you want to shout out? What do you want to plug?
Thanks for having me on. This was a lot of fun. I'm sorry I didn't make you any money the last hour. That's on me. And I guess I would shout out David, whose last name I cannot pronounce. I apologize. But we know who David is, the biggest League esports fan in the world. I love engaging with him on social. And for David, I will shout out the Chainsmokers. Because while I am no longer a fan, because they don't really make EDM music anymore.
Okay.
David's still holding down the fort. You know, Alex and Drew need his support. League needs his support. David is the last bastion of the super fan for the things that I once loved. May he carry the torch forward.
Is that a Kaisa statue behind you?
Yeah.
You should be showing that shit. What the hell? You should act like you're still a big league fan.
How much money was
Get
that
thing out there.
Kaisa statue?
I don't know, but you know what? You know how I explain it to people? That's
much?
Kaisa from TFT.
I hate you so much.
Dude, the patch where she was like giga strong in the Clapio meta was like when I really fell in love with Kaisa, and I think that they released that, and I was like, dude, that Kaisa statue's sick.
I'm pretty sure it's a
I got a bunch
$500
of those.
Kaisa statue. So
I think it's $350 if I recall correctly.
Kaisa.
It's not. It's
statue.
it also actually never mind. I'm not going to do the gatekeeping with like the physical item versus the digital item, but I do own that Kaisa statue. Right? Riot can't take it back.
Kaisa.
From me,
So there's a
I think.
limited edition one that's on the Riot Games website that's sold out or it's retired, and it was $799.
Is that the one I have?
I think this might be it. Hang on, I'm gonna put it on the screen.
Link
If
it.
all weekend long or if all show long, Kelby decried a $500 skin. Is this it, Kelby?
Maybe they changed the price because the demand was so. I mean, it looks very similar. I mean, I'm sure that they don't have two that they
At
produce.
the end of this
you know
video,
what? It could
in the
have
final
been.
moments, Raz outed
It could have
Kelby
been
as spending-
$750.
spelling.
It could have been.
Well, this was $70.
Wow.
This was $800, Kelby. So
This is really awkward.
it really brings it all in.
You know, I gotta go. We're deleting the VOD on this one, right?
Yeah.
This is edited out. This is like not in the show cut. This is like the epilogue. You wouldn't keep this in here.
So
It's
for
for the
my
Patreon
shout
only,
outs,
you know.
I want to shout out everybody who stuck around for this mega long episode, and including my guests and co-host. And I also want to shout out the Jenny Nicholson 4-hour-long video on the Star Wars Hotel and the demise of it. It is actually one of my favorite things I have watched on YouTube in so long. I did not expect to watch all 4 hours. I didn't watch it all at once. I watched like it in bursts, but it is so good. And at one point in time, I think in the first 30 minutes, I've seen people clip this out and put it on Twitter and I'm frustrated because I was going to do it. She talks about how marketing people now, I shouldn't say this because I will probably have to do this at some point in time in the future as an influencer, quote unquote, but marketing teams, she's basically talking about how like people call things like Star Wars Land, and how at Disneyland they used to call things like the Alice in Wonderland ride and stuff, and now it's Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland, or other long things. This is the like it's just like how ridiculous it is, and she shows all these clips of the Star Wars Hotel and all these influencers that have gotten hired to promote it, And in all of it, they're like, "Oh, I can't wait to go visit the oh god, what is it called? The Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser. It's going to be so great." And she bemoans how it just sounds so fake and inauthentic, and how all these marketing people just want everybody to use these like ridiculously long sentences for like SEO reasons, and it's just not how humans talk. And wow, did that feel incredibly relevant as somebody who watches a lot of content creators and is friends with a lot of content creators and has to do, promotion of stuff sometimes. And so I just thought it was just such a savvy, thoughtful line or conversation piece in there. And yeah, I discovered her through this video. I did not watch her videos previously, but she's really, really good. I would just go recommend it. Just go watch the first 30 minutes, see if you like it. First 15 minutes even. It's really good.
I'm going to watch it.
It's so
Yeah,
good.
I'm going to watch it now.
So good. Anyway.
I should have probably promoted off-brand content, huh?
True.
Well,
you get your chance.
Go watch Secret Santa, Ludwig's show, where he has people come in and give people gifts, and then they rate the gifts that people give them. And all the products are sponsored products. And so that's how they integrate the brand. And wow, it's such a great piece of content. That's
What
the
gifts
show,
are we
everybody.
talking about?
See you all later.
Is it like anything saltine based or see ya?